Part 18. Fringe Artists in the Entertainment Industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 174. Chapter 172-170. The smell of gunpowder and green tea. What a visual enjoyment it will be when three beautiful girls sit together. In the Maxim restaurant, many people looked sideways at Chen Lian and three girls eating together. Many people knew Chen Lian and smiled at him. It is a gathering place for artists in Beijing. It is not surprising to know Chen Lian, but it is a bit strange not to know him. Maxim's is a little quiet tonight. There is no lively rock music, only melodious piano music floating in the restaurant. Chen Lian sat alone on one side, Su Jinglei did the same, Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan sat together. The four of them were thinking enough to write a book. Chen Lian's thoughts were probably the simplest. He was simply hungry, looking at the menu carefully and thinking about what to eat tonight. The other three women had more on their minds. Su Jinglei put down the menu after ordering a random meal. She looked around the restaurant for a week without seeing anyone she knew. She didn't know whether she was happy or disappointed. I used to come to Maxim's often, but at that time I came with a group of rock musicians, but now I come with an artist. The feeling is very different. Su Jinglei now feels that playing rock music is really not that good. How could she like rock music so much before? On the other side, Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan, who were sitting together and pondering the menu, also had different thoughts, but it was hard to tell on the surface. They looked very close and looked like good sisters with deep feelings. However, there is already a faint crack in the two people's hearts, but they don't know when it will explode. Soon after everyone had ordered their meals, the three women were finally able to focus their attention. They looked at each other without opening the conversation easily. Chen Lian clearly felt that there was something wrong between the three women, and he also felt that he had done something stupid today. Why did they get together? They are really causing trouble for themselves. Fortunately, they are just classmates. If Chen Miran and Gong Li were sitting together to eat, Chen Lian's name would have been written upside down if the table had not been turned over. Women themselves are not troublesome, but it is troublesome when several women get together. Chen Lian looked at the strange atmosphere between them and always felt that they would quarrel in the next second, so he took the initiative to find a topic to interrupt them before casting. Shake. Have you received any drama recently? As soon as these words came out, the attention of several women was diverted. Zhang Qingqing seemed to have found confidence and took the initiative to say, I just finished filming 11 Shi, and I also went to CCTV to play a role in the Eastern Zhou Dynasty crew. I also went to the Eastern Zhou Dynasty crew, Chen Zihan whispered from the side, but she was not very confident because she only played a little maid. Compared with Zhang Qingqing, who played the heroine in her debut, the starting point of her acting career was a bit too low. Su Jinglei glanced at Zhang Qingqing, who raised her chin slightly, chuckled and said, I have just finished filming 2 TV series, both of which are heroines, and one of them is also the director. Zhang Qingqing was stunned as soon as these words came out. She couldn't understand why she acted in 2 TV series quietly. Chen Lian took another look at Su Jinglei, recalled it and asked, a romantic affair and a love story in the capital. How do you know? Su Jinglei looked at Chen Lian curiously. Neither of these 2 TV series knew when they would be broadcast, and they did not promote them vigorously. Except for a small group of well-informed people in the circle, no one knew about it. Not many. Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and said, I heard others say it before, but it's hard to get the heroines of these 2 TV series. I didn't expect you have quite a lot of connections. Su Jinglei couldn't help but frown, and for a moment she couldn't tell what Chen Lian meant by saying we have a lot of connections, but she still took the initiative to explain, I was introduced by a few friends in the past, and I will introduce you to each other one day. Wangshuo? Chen Lian asked with raised eyebrows. Su Jinglei was really weird now. She even suspected that Chen Lian was investigating her. She and Wang Shuo had not known each other for a long time, and they had already had some signs of it. If Chen Lian hadn't suddenly appeared, the relationship between the two might have been different. But Su Jinglei, who controlled the progress of the relationship in time, did not delay getting some resources through Wang Shuo's relationship. A smart woman is smart everywhere. Su Jinglei couldn't figure out how Chen Lian knew so much, and asked proactively, "How do you know? Do you know Wang Shuo?" Chen Lian smiled and said, "I heard it mentioned by a friend, but Wang Shuo and I don't know each other." Hearing Chen Lian's words, Su Jinglei's thin eyebrows couldn't help but frown. She was inexplicably glad that she and Wang Shuo had nothing to do with each other. Chen Lian was obviously more attractive to her than Wang Shuo. Talents can be divided into those with beautiful faces and those with ordinary looks. What's more, Su Jinglei likes art. Before taking the Nortel exam, she was only thinking about Central America, but she just didn't pass. Talented women in the entertainment industry who haven't even been admitted to the Central Academy of Sciences are still talented. Chen Zihan, who had been silent and listening quietly, suddenly asked with pretended envy, "Sister, you and Wang Shuo must have a very good relationship. I'm so envious that you can take on so many roles." The scene immediately fell silent as soon as these words came out, and Zhang Qingqing could not help but give Chen Zihan a thumbs up. "Good sisters, if you can speak, speak more." Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan, who was suddenly chatting over tea, and couldn't help but want to laugh. "Little girl, you also have two faces." Chen Lian glanced at Su Jinglei, whose expression flashed with anger, and wondered how this smart woman would answer. There was no word for green tea in this era, so Su Jinglei used another word in her mind to describe Chen Zihan: "You little asterisk person, why don't you give me eye drops?" However, Su Jinglei said calmly on the surface, "My friends are just helping me. You have to rely on yourself to be able to act. It's not just about being petty." A trace of disdain flashed in Chen Zihan's heart. Relying on himself? Who are you fooling? But looking at Chen Lian watching the show silently, she didn't continue to cause trouble. If she talked too much, she would appear to be very scheming. However, Zhang Qingqing took the baton from Chen Zihan and said proactively, "Senior is really amazing. You can become good friends with a great writer like Wang Shuo. Senior is so beautiful, he won't like you, right?" It was getting more and more interesting. A smile appeared on Chen Lian's lips. He felt that the woman was talking with a gun and a stick. It was really interesting, but she couldn't watch the show anymore. When the fight started, it wouldn't be over. Chen Lian glanced at the waiter who happened to be serving the food and said proactively, "Let's eat first, I'm already hungry." Seeing Chen Lian take the initiative to end the topic, Su Jinglei felt a flash of gratitude in her heart, but she was a little worried that Chen Lian would misunderstand the relationship between her and Wang Shuo. Zhang Qingqing glanced at Chen Lian and didn't know what he meant. She showed her unhappiness on her face and even helped Su Jinglei to save herself. Do all men like women like this? Tasteless. Isn't 11 beautiful? 11 she is beautiful, but the arrogant 11 she is not. Chen Lian glanced at Zhang Qingqing, whose unhappiness was written all over her face, and couldn't help but shake her head. With this kind of character, I will suffer a lot in the future. The atmosphere after the meal was not good, and the three women were all a little unhappy, but Chen Lian thought it was still very interesting, and they had a lot of fun watching the show. Su Jinglei finally discovered that Chen Lian was a bad person, but she also confirmed that Chen Lian really didn't have that kind of interest in her. We obviously had a lot of fun talking before, so why is it so difficult? After finishing the meal, it was already past 8 o'clock. After coming out of Maxim, Chen Lian looked at Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan and asked, "When does the school close? Will it be too late to go back to the dormitory after watching a movie?" Zhang Qingqing felt that Chen Lian wanted her and Chen Zihan to leave quickly, So she said, Zihan and I are going back to the dormitory. We won't go to the movies. You and your senior sister should watch it. After hearing John Kinking's words, Chen Zihan turned away with a look of despair and arrogance. Aren't you creating opportunities for others? Su Jinglei took a deep look at Zhang Qingqing, almost understood her character, and said with a smile, that's such a pity. Do you want us to send you back? No, we can take a taxi ourselves, Zhang Qingqing said and pulled Chen Zihan to leave. Chen Zihan stood still and struggled to say, I really want to watch a movie. It's probably too late to go back after watching it. It's too late. You won't be able to get in after 9 o'clock. Su Jinglei made a stab in silence. Hearing what Su Jinglei said, Zhang Qingqing pulled Chen Zihan away without any explanation. Good sisters must unite as a front. Don't be angry with this woman. Looking at Chen Zihan being pulled away, Chen Lian finally couldn't help but laugh. He looked at Su Jinglei and said, you are really wilted and wilted. Seeing Chen Lian smiling so happily, Su Jinglei did not deny it and said generously, who made her embarrass me before? I am very stingy. Then I have to be careful not to offend you in the future. Chen Lian stopped laughing and said, would you like to watch the movie? Anything is fine. Su Jinglei was too lazy to continue pretending now. She looked at Chen Lian and said, anyway, you know I'm not here to watch a movie. Chen Lian looked at Su Jinglei's bright eyes and said, then don't watch it. Go home and go to bed early. Su Jinglei, this man is really good at pretending to be dead. Look. I want to see it again. Let's go then, let's just watch the movie and nothing else. Dog men are really irritating. Su Jinglei looked at Chen Lian's beautiful face and really wanted to try to pull it hard. In the dark living room, there is only a faint light from the TV. There are more than 10,000 Toshiba rocket launchers, which are the best TVs in this era. Paired with the self-produced VCD, the overall imaging effect is very good. The only flaw is that Chen Lian did not have a good set of speakers. However, even if it is equipped with speakers, the viewing effect will not be very good. The size of the TV is still a bit smaller. After waiting for the plasma TV to be launched in 2 years, it will be much better. I just hope no one breaks their TV by then. Su Jinglei and Chen Lian were sitting on the carpet, leaning on the edge of the sofa, each holding a bottle of beer in their hands, quietly looking at Simba, who was held high. The vigorous vitality and wildness of nature seemed to be able to penetrate the screen and directly hit people's hearts. Su Jinglei couldn't help but glance sideways at the focused Chen Lian, looking at his eyes that were as pure as Simba's. She raised her beer and took a sip, then rolled up her trousers and deliberately moved her calf toward Chen Lian. Chen Lian lowered his head and then moved to the side, placing the bottle of wine in his hand between the two of them. Su Jinglei picked up the wine bottle and moved it a little closer to Chen Lian. Stop squeezing this way, I can hardly see the TV. Chen Lian glanced at Su Jinglei angrily, then took the bottle from her hand and said, we are watching a movie like old friends. Is the movie bad? Listening to Chen Lian's words, Su Jinglei was silent for a while, then she hugged her legs and made way for Chen Lian, resting her chin on her knees and asked in a low voice, you really don't know what I mean. I know, but I don't want to. I prefer to be friends with you. Many things are meaningless once they cross the line. Chen Lian said from the bottom of his heart, I understand this deeply. It's really good to be friends. But I really want to, as a friend, will you touch my abs? Hey, can we be normal? As a friend, you don't want to touch your abdominal muscles. What kind of friend do you think you are? Come on, let me touch you. 3 chapters, done. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 175. Chapter 173-171. Chen Lian's Nightmare. There is no mountain that cannot be conquered. After watching The Lion King, Su Jinglei's favorite line was this line. It may be that Chen Lian's refusal to touch her abdominal muscles aroused her fighting spirit. Chen Lian watched the scrolling subtitles on the TV screen, put down the beer bottle in his hand, stood up and turned on the light. Su Jinglei was still sitting there without moving, with 4 or 5 empty beer bottles in front of her, her face flushed and her eyes half closed, as if she was drunk. The moment the lights came on, Su Jinglei closed her eyes and leaned her head on the sofa and fell asleep. Chen Lian couldn't help but laugh when he saw Su Jinglei pretending to be drunk. During the time the two of them watched a movie, they drank a total of 6 bottles of beer, and Chen Lian drank 4 bottles by himself. He didn't believe that Su Jinglei's drinking capacity was only 2 bottles of beer. There were no girls in the capital who couldn't drink. Drunk, Chen Lian walked to Su Jinglei and squatted down and asked. Su Jinglei's eyelashes trembled slightly, she rubbed her face on the sofa and slept more soundly. Tisk. Chen Lian couldn't help but smacked his lips, then put away the wine bottles, and went straight to take a shower regardless of whether Su Jinglei was pretending to be drunk. Hearing the sound of rushing water coming from the bathroom, Su Jinglei opened her eyes, quickly stood up from the ground, and cautiously walked to the door of the bathroom with bare feet. Listening to Chen Lian humming in the bathroom, Su Jinglei took a deep breath, then put her hand on the door handle, exerting a little force to keep the handle motionless. Several questions popped up on Su Jinglei's head. Who can take a shower at home and lock the door? Chen Lian in the bathroom also heard the sound of the door lock. He turned around and ignored it, slowly wiping his body with a bath ball. Seeing that the plan failed, Su Jinglei outside the door decided not to sneak into the bathroom. She glanced at Chen Lian's bedroom, and then took off her clothes everywhere as she walked, as if she was giving Chen Lian guidance. After arriving at Chen Lian's bedroom, Su Jinglei looked at it carefully for a while, then flopped down on the bed, hugged the quilt and smelled it. There was a faint fragrance of grass and woods, which smelled quite good. Su Jinglei opened her eyes and looked at the chandelier in the bedroom. She blinked and wondered if Chen Lian could bear it when he came out of the shower and saw herself lying on his bed. Thinking of Chen Lian's figure, Su Jinglei couldn't help but feel shy, and then let out a laugh like a slut. I just like handsome people, and I have been a big fan of sex since I was a child. On the other side, Chen Lian came out of the shower, wiped his hair and looked at the clothes on the floor. He even saw a tight-fitting sweater and paused in his movements. He was quite good at playing. Chen Lian smiled, glanced at the half-open door of the master bedroom, then walked straight to the door, wiped his hair and said, "There are new towels and toothbrushes in the locker in the bathroom." Su Jinglei in the bedroom was stunned for a moment when she heard Chen Lian's voice. Before she could react, she heard Chen Lian's leaving footsteps and the sound of the door closing outside. Bang! Chen Lian closed the door of the second bedroom, lay on the bed, yawned, and fell into a deep sleep. Mad. Su Jinglei grabbed the pillow and threw it around on Chen Lian's big bed. She really couldn't understand why Chen Lian didn't come in or why he could hold back. Are all those muscles on your body grown in vain? Although Su Jinglei was very angry when her plan failed again, she also knew that there was no chance tonight. They were all smart people. If Chen Lian was really interested in her, the two of them would already be in bed. No, they were watching a movie. It was rolling around on the carpet. But why? Su Jinglei knelt down on the soft big bed and fell into self-doubt and denial. Based on her understanding of Chen Lian, this was not an innocent and traditional man. Compared to Su Jinglei, who fell into self-doubt, Chen Lian slept soundly that night, but had a nightmare in the morning, which woke him up. Chen Lian sat up suddenly and felt a dozen little hands grabbing him and calling him daddy. He looked around and didn't see 7 or 8 human cubs surrounding him, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. It was so scary. Chen Lian couldn't help but be afraid when he thought of that scene. Feeling like he was alive again, Chen Lian rolled over and got out of bed to drink some water to calm down his shock. But as soon as he walked out of the bedroom, he smelled the aroma of food. Chen Lian came to the dining room curiously and saw Su Jinglei sitting there holding a fried dough stick and eating it in small bites. Good morning. Su Jinglei glanced at Chen Lian, then pointed to the breakfast on the table and said, I just went to buy it. I drank too much yesterday and caused you trouble. I also slept in your bed. Chen Lian said it was okay, went to the refrigerator and took out a bottle of water and took a big sip to get rid of the fright caused by the nightmare. Chen Lian also likes children, but if he really has 7 or 8 children surrounding him, changing diapers and feeding, Chen Lian will definitely collapse and run away. Are you having a nightmare? Su Jinglei asked speculatively, seeing that the hair on the back of Chen Lian's neck was a little wet. Chen Lian hummed, went to the bathroom to wash up, then sat at the dining table, picked up a bun and took a bite before saying, I dreamed that 7 or 8 children gathered around me and called me daddy. 7 or 8 children call you daddy? Su Jinglei frowned slightly. The doubts she had last night seemed to have been answered. She glanced at Chen Lian meaningfully and asked, who do you have children with? Ahem, what are you talking about? Chen Lian choked on the bun and took a sip of the soy milk. Su Jinglei raised her eyebrows slightly, biting the fried dough stick and said, no, I wouldn't be as excited as you. Chen Lian put down the soy milk in his hand and glanced at Su Jinglei, and he understood a truth deeply. If you talk too much, you will make mistakes. You must be careful when talking to smart people in the future. Su Jinglei, who had the answer in her heart, swept away the decadence from last night, and took the initiative to wave goodbye to Chen Lian after eating breakfast. She could feel that Chen Lian was currently in a period of psychological preparedness. Maybe some woman had used some means to give birth to a child for him, making him start to be afraid and defensive. A crime other than war. It's not that she is unattractive, it's just that the time is wrong. It's useless to continue to pester her. It's better to deal with her coldly for a while. Maybe it can have miraculous effects. No man is honest, and he will definitely be unable to bear it if he remains calm for a few days. It will definitely be available by then. After breakfast at Chen Lian's house, he simply packed up and went out. There was no school today since it was Saturday. More than 20 minutes later, Chen Lian arrived at Mei Chen's house and happened to meet her about to go out. Why are you here? Chen Miren looked at Chen Lian, who suddenly came over and asked in surprise. Chen Lian looked at the elegantly dressed Chen Miren and asked curiously, I'm here to get the script, what are you going to do? Go to the Luluakuo crew, Chen Miren said excitedly, I am now one of the producers of the crew, so of course I will go to the crew to see how my money is spent. It seems that the investment has been negotiated. Chen Lian nodded and said, then you study hard, but first give me the script of Red River Valley. I will use it today. You don't want to invest? Why do you need a script? Chen Miren was a little confused, but she reopened the courtyard door and went in with Chen Lian. After getting the script, Chen Lian did not waste any time and said to Miren Chen, go and do your work. I'm leaving too. What on earth do you want to do with the script? Chen Miren asked. Chen Lian explained, the script is indeed good. I'm quite interested in it. Although I won't invest in it, I can introduce it to others to see if there is an opportunity to establish a project. Who are you going to find? Ning Jing is the head actress of Shanghai Film Studio. She should be able to persuade Shanghai Film Studio to invest. Hearing Chen Lian's words, Chen Miren breathed a sigh of relief. Based on her understanding of Chen Lian, Ning Jing's appearance was not in Chen Lian's aesthetic category, so there was no need to be wary. After Chen Lian left with the script, Chen Miren also set off for Prince Gong's mansion. However, she still felt a sense of crisis during the drive, planning to succeed next time. Try to use all those 20 special small umbrellas. Chen Lian on the other side dialed Ning Jing's number. She should still be promoting in the capital today, but she didn't know if she had time. Ning Jing, who was promoting at the Beijing Sports University, heard the ringtone of her mobile phone. She took it out and took a look at it and found that it was an unknown number, so she reached out and hung up. Huo Jiankai glanced at Ningjing, didn't care, and then started chatting with the students. Ningjing put away the phone and joined the discussion. Chen Lian was a little depressed after being hung up on. Why didn't he answer the phone? He couldn't send text messages these days, which was really troublesome. Chen Lian thought for a while and called Huo Jiankai. The phone rang a few times and was answered. Director Huo, will Ningjing promote with you? Huo Jiankai glanced at Ningjing when he heard this, and then asked suddenly, did you make that call just now? Gee, this kid has been waiting for a few days, but he just called today. He was quite patient. Huo Jiankai subconsciously lowered his voice and said, we are promoting at Base Sports. You can call back later. Chen Lian didn't pay attention to Huo Jiankai's sneaky voice and responded, that's it, that's okay, I'll fight again later. Okay, you can call again in 20 minutes. Hang up first, Huo Jiankai said and hung up the phone, and then whispered to Ningjing what happened just now. After hearing this, Ningjing was a little surprised as to why Chen Lian was looking for her, but she was busy with publicity right now, so she didn't worry about it. She would find out later when Chen Lian called. More than 20 minutes later, Ningjing's phone rang again. She glanced at the number and said it to Huo Jiankai and the others, walked to the side and picked up the phone. Jin Qiao watched Ningjing walk to the side to answer the phone, and couldn't help but wonder why Chen Lian suddenly came to Ningjing. Didn't the two of them have no sparks when they were filming before? When Ningjing walked to the corner, she picked up the phone and joked, why did the great artist remember to call me? Chen Lian laughed, and then said, of course I have something to ask you. I have a script I want to show you. Do you have time to meet today? Script? You want me to act in a play? Ningjing was a little curious about what script Chen Lian was going to read to her. She had only worked with him once and was impressed by her acting skills. Thinking of this, Ningjing smiled and said, but I only have time after 7 o'clock in the evening today. Let's wait until we meet to discuss the details. I'll see you at 7:30 in the evening. Okay, see you tonight. I want to have a bad day and help my colleagues to shoot today. I am exhausted. I still have 2 chapters and I will update them tomorrow afternoon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 176. Chapter 174-172. Men can also be bent over by money. In the quiet cafe, Chen Lian took a sip of the unauthentic latte, frowned and put it down again. Ningjing sat opposite and read the script intently. She only took a sip of the coffee in front of her and left it untouched. Chen Lian waited quietly for Ningjing to finish reading. Looking at her expression, he felt that she should be quite interested. If the script impressed her, Hunghe River Valley should be able to get investment a few months in advance. There are currently very few scripts and roles that interest Chen Lian, so naturally he doesn't want to miss them if he encounters them. If he hadn't been unwilling to be a literary copywriter, he would have been thinking about writing the script himself. After all, Chen Lian still has his own arrogance and is unwilling to do many things. There is no need to graft other people's achievements onto his own. The only act of plagiarism was when he sang a song in front of the princess that day. Chen Lian still regrets it now. If he is a person with no talents and no golden fingers, he will definitely become a copywriter to make a fortune. In order to live without shame. Just when Chen Lian was in a daze, Ningjing finished reading the script, picked up the coffee and put it down just as she was about to take a sip. She looked at Chen Lian and said, I have heard of this script. Feng Xiaoning tried to attract investment in the factory but failed, but this is my first time when I saw the script. I didn't expect it to be well written. Yes, it's a very good script. I don't understand why Shanghai Film Studio didn't invest. Chen Lian was a little surprised by Shanghai Film Studio's operation. He obviously invested in it later, so why didn't he agree at the beginning? Chen Lian didn't know the specific things inside. He didn't know if Feng Xiaoning later obtained investment from other places and then bought the factory logo from Shanghai Film Studio. Ning Jing flipped through the script again, then looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Are you planning to invest? And then you want me to act?" "No, I don't have that much money to invest." Chen Lian laughed at himself, and then said, "I am very interested in that role. Although he is not the male lead, I like this kind of role of ethnic minorities fighting against the war." So, Ning Jing looked at Chen Lian doubtfully and said with some surprise, "You don't expect me to invest, do you? I don't have any money either. Actors really don't make much money these days. It's impossible for Ning Jing to have that much money to invest in a movie. She's not a top actress like Gong Li, who can earn a lot of money from movies and commercials." Chen Lian looked at Ning Jing's surprised expression and smiled and said, "Of course not, I hope you can recommend it to the factory." After hearing what Chen Lian meant, Ning Jing finally understood. She looked at him speechlessly and said, "You really know how to go around in circles for this role. There is no way. If Feng Xiaoning is not from Shanghai Film Studio, I will take the script and go to Beijing Film Studio with Feng Xiaoning." Chen Lian explained helplessly. Competition between film studios does exist, and actors do not have so many restrictions, but directors are different. They are precious production materials. This is also the reason why many film studio directors seek investment from private capital rather than from other film studios. The simplest question is, who owns the movie after it's finished? Whose factory logo is on the opening of the film? Ning Jing looked at Chen Lian for a while before saying, "Okay, I'll give it a try later, but I'm not sure if it will work. Even if the factory invests, I'm not sure if they will use you. It's okay, just do your best and let fate. It doesn't matter if you miss it in the end." After taking a sip of coffee, Chen Lian frowned and said, "I just like it. It's not to the point where I have to act. Otherwise, I would have invested in it myself." "Don't you have no money?" Ning Jing wondered if Chen Lian was afraid of losing money, so he tricked her into cheating the factory. Chen Lian said with a smile, "I really don't have any money, so I have invested all my money. But if you want to invest, you can still get 2 to 3 million. 2 or 3 million is not 2 or 300 yuan. Can you stop saying it so easily?" Ning Jing couldn't help but think about how Zhang Wen was looking for investment in order to shoot Sunny Days. She looked at Chen Lian and said, "You're not also borrowing money from your confidant, are you?" Chen Lian, "Of course not, you are indeed right, but I won't admit it." Ning Jing curled her lips and said, "How else could you get so much money? After all, men will be bent over by money." Chen Lian knew that Ning Jing was alluding to Zhang Wen, and he was probably still angry that he and Zhang Wen broke up because of Lu Xiaoqing's interference. Of course, he probably had more objections to Zhang Wen. Seeing Ning Jing's angry look, Chen Lian said with a smile, "You are really wrong about that. A man without ability will be beaten to his knees, but a man with ability is not afraid of borrowing money at all, because he is confident that he can make more money. Give it back. However, I will definitely remember this person who believes in me and is willing to lend me money." Listening to Chen Lian's words, Ning Jing snorted, knowing that he was right, and silently turned the coffee cup after taking only one sip. After a while, Ning Jing said, "I will help you ask about the script later, and I will also tell Feng Xiaoning that you were the one who arranged it, but will you keep it in mind if I help you?" "Yes," Chen Lian replied matter-of-factly. Ning Jing sighed and said, "Okay, let's leave this matter as it is. If it's okay, I'll leave. I'll continue to promote it tomorrow." After saying that, Ningjing looked at Chen Lian complainingly and said, "You are also the male lead after all, and you don't even come to promote it. Are you envious that I can be lazy?" Chen Lian teased with a smile, and then said, "Then I'll trouble you about the Red River Valley. I won't delay you going back to rest." "Let's go." Ningjing stood up, looked at Chen Lian and said, "If this matter comes to pass, don't forget to owe me a favor." "No problem. Whenever you want me to return this favor, just ask," Chen Lian said with a smile. Ningjing waved her hands, picked up her bag and left. After Ningjing left, Chen Lian asked the waiter to pay. While paying, he complained, "Your coffee is too unauthentic." The waiter smiled awkwardly, took the money and said welcome to come again next time, but in his heart he was wondering whether Kubulaji's food was authentic or not. After Chen Lian returned home in the evening, he went to the study to knead mud. This thing is addictive. While Chen Lian was pinching the mud, Chen Myron was at home looking at the account books and settling accounts. After a busy day on the set, she realized that being a producer was much more difficult than being an actor. However, the rewards were also great. Chen Myron found that being a producer was more suitable for her than being an actress. The directors and actors on the crew were very kind to her when they saw her, and they also had a lot of power in the crew. After all, they controlled the money bag. Although the director was the biggest in the crew, they would tell her what the director wanted to do and where to spend money. A sound. After working as a producer for one day, Chen Myron felt the improvement of her class and the feeling of gaining power. This is even more fascinating than acting. There are also classes in the entertainment industry. Investors and producers are much higher than actors. After Chen Myron calculated the accounts for a while, she couldn't help but take out her phone and call Chen Lian. She was very excited and wanted to share her happiness with Chen Lian. The call was connected after a while, and Chen Myron immediately said excitedly, "My dear, where are you? Do you have time now? Can you come to my house to find me?" Beauty Chen's series of questions made Chen Lian put down the carving knife in his hand and ask strangely, "What happened to you to make you so happy?" "I'll tell you when you come to my house." Chen Myron was afraid that Chen Lian would be too lazy to go out and said, "I can go to your house, just give me the specific address." Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "I'll go find you. Do you want a midnight snack? I'll take some with me." "Okay," Chen Myron responded immediately, and then added, "Buy a few more bottles of wine, I want to let myself go tonight." Listening to Chen Myron's voice, Chen Lian could really feel her excitement and happiness, so he put down the carving knife in his hand, simply packed it up and went out. More than an hour later, Chen Lian looked at Beauty Chen, who was flushed from drinking. He couldn't help but rub her head, pinch her chin and said, "I can't tell you like being a strong woman so much. I thought you liked it more be a good wife and mother." Chen Myron hugged Chen Lian's neck and smiled happily. She blinked her beautiful eyes and said, "I like it all. Are you willing to give me a chance to be a good wife and mother?" You drank too much." Chen Lian looked at Beauty Chen in confusion, and then asked, "Do you want to take a bath?" The light in Chen Myron's eyes dimmed a bit, then she coiled herself around Chen Lian's waist like an octopus and said, "Okay, you can carry me." Early the next morning, before Chen Lian woke up, Chen Myron had already packed up. She gave Chen Lian a good morning kiss and hurried to the set. When Chen Lian woke up, he couldn't help but smile when he saw the note left by Beauty Chen. In the future, there will be another beautiful producer in the industry. In a few years, she may be a film and television boss. I wonder if Beauty Chen will be more charming by then. Chen Lian was suddenly looking forward to it, and couldn't help but imagine what Beauty Chen looked like in professional attire. Chen Myron had her own affairs to be busy with, so naturally Chen Lian would not be idle. Taking advantage of the fact that he was not far from Hyogyo Temple, he went directly to the studio to take a look. This will be the birthplace of his first real installation art. After Chen Lian walked around the courtyard a few times, the ideas in his mind became clearer and clearer, and he couldn't wait to start creating now. I just thought that my sculpture skills were just getting started, so I suppressed the desire and inspiration in my heart, suppressed this impulse, and waited until the actual creation time to burst out. When doing installation art in a courtyard, it is natural to have the characteristics of a courtyard. After Chen Lian returned home, he took out his paintbrush and started recording his inspirations. After working for more than 2 hours, Chen Lian put down his pen, looked at the sketch on the drawing paper, and couldn't help laughing. The messy design on the drawing paper does look a bit nondescript, but Chen Lian is confident that it will be completely different after completion. This courtyard house will definitely become a benchmark for the combination of traditional and modern art. After Chen Lian solemnly put away the design draft, he sat in the study and picked up the carving knife to continue brushing up on his proficiency. Cheng Shifen, who is far away in France, has just finished a concert by Jackie Chung. She is walking on the streets of Paris and looking at the luxury stores on the Champs-Élysées. She suddenly seems to have caught something in her mind, and suddenly thinks of the past few days. When I went to the Pipindu Art and Cultural Center, a flash of inspiration suddenly exploded in my mind. I got it. Thinking of how to impress Chen Lian. Cheng Shifen couldn't help but get excited, and even felt that her idea would be more powerful and have commercial value than creating a superstar. Chen Lian will definitely become a benchmark in the hearts of one generation or even several generations in the future. There is another chapter in chapter 2. I will update it when I wake up. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 177. Chapter 175-173. I want to go to your house to watch a movie too. Monday is always something people like and hate. I like it because a new week has begun, perhaps a new beginning. I hate it because a repetitive week has begun, and it will be an old cycle again. Chen Lian didn't have much expectations for Monday because he had a lot of classes today, so he was very resistant when he got up in the morning. It's already very cold in Beijing at the end of October. It should snow next month. Winter is coming and people will become lazy. Chen Lian put on his backpack and took a taxi to school. He looked at the hurried office workers on the street and felt much better. Going to school was much easier than going to work. Happiness comes from contrast, and so does superiority. This is human nature. Chen Lian also has a strong sense of superiority towards the world. The memory of the future in his mind makes him feel condescending when looking at many people and things. Some people think this is self-confidence and a very unique charm. Chen Lian received love letters every day when he came to school, but he didn't read any of them. He put them all in his bag and threw them away after returning home. Of course, some people will think that this is not self-confidence, and many sensitive people will reject him. There are people in the class who do not want to have a close relationship with Chen Lian because they feel a slight look down on him. Cheng Chuang is like this. When he gets along with Chen Lian, he always feels that he looks at her like he's looking at a dog. Well, this is Cheng Chuang's illusion. Chen Lian just reminds him of Roaring Sky Dog when he sees him. His acting is so good that whenever he is in the role, Erlang Shen will steal the limelight. This is the treatment only a good actor can have. The audience can always remember his role, not the actor himself. Cheng Chuang looked at Chen Lian holding the bun in his hand as if he wanted to throw it out for him to pick up the next second. He couldn't help but feel angry in his heart. He looked straight at him and asked, "Why do you always use this look at me like that?" Sorry, I was thinking about something." Chen Lian was a little embarrassed and awkwardly ate the bun in his hand in one bite, and then said, "I apologize if it makes you uncomfortable." Cheng Chuang looked at Chen Lian and was silent for a while. He didn't let him apologize but didn't continue to talk to him. Chen Lian sighed. His mind was too active and his imagination was too rich, and he would always have random thoughts. But I really want to throw the bun out. The treatment that only Erlang Shen has. What man doesn't want to be Erlang Shen? Just as Chen Lian was finishing his breakfast, Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan entered the classroom together. The moment Chen Zihan saw Chen Lian, he wanted to go over and sit next to him. Zhang Qingqing also saw it, but she still remembered what happened that night. She watched Chen Lian raise his head and snorted, and then pulled Chen Zihan, who wanted to go to Chen Lian, to the other side of the classroom. Chen Zihan resisted and wanted to drag Zhang Qingqing to Chen Lian, but Zhang Qingqing gave up the struggle after being glared at. "You are so arrogant, don't drag me along with you if you are stupid." Chen Zihan reluctantly turned around and glanced at the empty seat next to Chen Lian being snatched by Fudalong. Sighing silently, she followed Zhang Qingqing to sit at the end of the classroom. She held her chin and looked at this good friend who shared the same difficulties, and asked quietly, "Does it make sense for you to do this? I don't understand what you are saying." "I just want to sit by the window," Zhang Qingqing said, pretending not to understand. Seeing Zhang Qingqing like this, Chen Zihan really wanted to take the initiative to sit next to Chen Lian. "If you don't take the initiative, why don't you give me the initiative? Damn it!" If they hadn't come from the same place, Zhang Qingqing would be doing much better than her now. She really didn't want to wrong herself like this. Chen Zihan lay on the table and looked at Chen Lian's back, thinking that if he could win Chen Lian, he wouldn't have to be Zhang Qingqing's best friend or follower. Since she entered the school as a freshman, Zhang Qingqing has been named the beauty of the class. She has been favored by the teacher and even played the role of 11th. Even the role in the CCTV drama is much better than hers. It would be a lie to say that she is not jealous. Be willing to say that is also false. There are a few people who embark on the path of becoming actors who don't want to be famous. Chen Zihan feels that he lacks an opportunity, but he just doesn't know where this opportunity will be. Looking at Chen Lian's back, Chen Zihan's eyes rolled, maybe they were on him. No matter how good her relationship with Zhang Qingqing is, she will never introduce herself to a female lead, but it is possible for Chen Lian. He is a man and there is no competition with her. Thinking of this, Chen Zihan sat up straight. Just as he was about to sit down with his books, he heard the class bell rang and the English teacher came in with textbooks under his arm. In desperation, Chen Zihan could only give up temporarily. He glanced at Zhang Qingqing, who was flipping through the book, and felt inexplicably relieved when he found that she didn't notice his little action just now. English class was the least interesting to Chen Lian. His English was much better than the teacher's. Listening to his lectures was so boring that he simply lay down on the table and slept. The English teacher on the podium looked at Chen Lian sleeping as if he hadn't seen him. After lying on the table and sleeping for a while, Chen Lian woke up again. He felt that he was really going to get rusty if he continued to go to class, and he even wanted to stop studying. It is really a waste of life to waste time in school all day long. After the English class, Chen Lian immediately ran to Li Qiji's office. Chen Zihan, who originally wanted to go to the cafeteria with Chen Lian to eat, saw Chen Lian running out in a hurry, helplessly stopped and turned around to go to the cafeteria with Zhang Qingqing. "If you don't go to eat, why are you here?" Li Qiji looked at Chen Lian coming to find him, feeling that he was going to ask for leave the next second. Chen Lian looked at Li Qiji seriously and said, "Teacher, I think I need to talk to you." Seeing Chen Lian's serious look, Li Qiji became more serious and said to him, "Sit down and talk." Chen Lian sat down without any courtesy, looked at Li Qiji and said, "Teacher, I feel that I come to class every day and it does not help me very much. If I say something you don't like to hear, I feel like I am wasting my life." Li Qiji's expression changed. Such words coming from a student's mouth were the greatest rejection of a teacher. His eyes when he looked at Chen Lian became serious, and he said seriously, "Don't be so proud. Don't think that you are better than your peers. Being strong means you don't have to learn anything. I'm not saying that I don't need to learn anymore, but the current courses are too basic and really don't help me at all. Chen Lian explained seriously. I'm not complaining about the teachers, but now I need to focus, and acting is my hobbies, but now I waste too much time on my hobbies. Hearing what Chen Lian said, Li Qiji's face looked better, and he knew in his heart that what Chen Lian said was the truth. He was mainly engaged in art, and his acting ability was already very strong. Li Qiji paused for a while, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Then what do you want to do? Can't you ask for leave?" "Teacher, do you think this will work?" Chen Lian pondered for a moment and expressed his thoughts. After a while, Li Qiji picked up the cup and took a sip of tea. Then he looked at Chen Lian helplessly and said, "Okay, but you must do what you said. Come to class at least 2 days a week. You must also take the stage exam passed. I promise." After coming out of Li Qiji's office, Chen Lian felt relaxed. It was great not to have to go to class, so he had more time to work on sculptures. Chen Lian left the teaching building and was about to go home when he saw Chen Zihan walking towards him from a distance. Chen Zihan watched Chen Lian come out of the teaching building and felt relieved. Fortunately, he found an excuse in the cafeteria not to eat with Zhang Qingqing, otherwise he would have missed it with Chen Lian. "Why haven't you gone to the cafeteria to eat yet?" Chen Lian walked up to Chen Zihan and asked. Chen Zihan quickly picked up a notebook in his hand and said, "I just left my things in the classroom." "You didn't eat either, right? Do you want to come together?" Chen Lian nodded, then said with a smile, "Okay, let's go out to eat." The food in the cafeteria is hard to describe. Chen Zihan nodded in agreement, and then said happily, "Okay, I know there is a restaurant outside the school that is very delicious." "Let's go then, you lead the way," Chen Lian said with a smile. More than half an hour later, Chen Zihan heard Chen Lian say that he would not come to class every day. He swallowed the ribs in his mouth in surprise, looked at him with some disappointment and said, "You haven't even attended class for a few days, why are you leaving again?" Seeing Chen Zihan's expression of reluctance, Chen Lian wondered when he and her had such a deep relationship. "I don't know, I thought they were boyfriend and girlfriend." Chen Lian glanced at Chen Zihan strangely, but still explained, "The current courses are too basic for me. I don't have so much time to waste in school." Chen Zihan was stunned for a moment. Thinking about it, it was true that she had seen Chen Lian's acting skills in the movies a few days ago, and he was indeed much better than them. Although he could understand it, Chen Zihan was still a little disappointed. She had just decided to take the initiative to pursue Chen Lian regardless of Zhang Qingqing's attitude. Fortunately, Chen Lian did not come to school once a year as before. He still came 2 days a week, so there was no chance at all. Jingle bell bell. Chen Lian's cell phone rang. He took it out and saw that it was Cheng Shifen's phone. He smiled apologetically at Chen Zihan and then answered the call. "Sister Shifen, why do you have time to call me? Are you finished with your concerts in Europe?" When Chen Zihan heard the words Europe and concert, her ears perked up subconsciously. This kind of thing was so far away from her, but it felt so ordinary to Chen Lian. Cheng Shifen on the other end of the phone smiled and said, "The Paris leg is over. I'm calling you to tell you that the snowboarders will go on tour in the mainland next month. We will meet and talk about what happened last time." Chen Lian felt at ease, and then said, "Okay, let's meet next month, but you have to prepare some tickets for me. Tickets for Zhang Sui's concert are not easy to get." Chen Zihan bit his chopsticks and looked at Chen Lian, wondering if he should be more bold. It would be a pity to miss such a high-quality man. Looking at the friends he has made friends with, he also goes to foreign art exhibitions from time to win awards. If he can really be with Chen Lian together, wouldn't it be possible for me to achieve a class jump in the entertainment industry all at once? Even a jump in social class. It's just that Chen Zihan struggled for a while and then gave up. When facing Chen Lian, she felt a little inferior. She is an artist, has good acting skills, and her friends are all big-name stars. I am just a young actor who played a role as a maid. No matter how you think about it, you are from two different worlds. If you confess your love rashly, you may not even be friends. It's better to use another method, confirm the intimate relationship first, and talk about the rest later. After Chen Lian hung up the phone, Chen Zihan put down his chopsticks, wiped his mouth and said, "I've finished eating." Looking at the barely touched dishes, Chen Lian took a look at Chen Zihan's slender figure and was not surprised. He wouldn't eat too much to stay in shape. Chen Lian never liked wasting food, so he had to finish the dishes himself. After Chen Lian finished eating, Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian hesitantly and said, "Are you free tonight?" "Yes, but not much. I want to go home and create." Chen Lian looked up at Chen Zihan and said. When Chen Zihan heard Chen Lian's words, he became bolder and said, "Didn't we go to the movies together last time but failed? I wonder if we can go to the movies today." After saying that, Chen Zihan looked into Chen Lian's eyes, which were full of cautious expectation. Chen Lian hesitated and said, "Okay, but the last time I watched it was the DVD of The Lion King. I watched it at my house. Do you want to go? You and Su Jinglei went home to watch the disc together? Something must have happened to you." Chen Zihan felt excited for a moment, and then realized that he was so excited, Su Jinglei was an enemy. Others have stolen their homes, but I am still hesitating here. The senior sister is more direct. No wonder Wang Shuo introduced resources to her. This woman is a strong enemy. Much more dangerous than that arrogant Zhang Qingqing. Seeing Chen Zihan's strange expression, Chen Lian guessed what he was thinking, frowned and said angrily, "Don't get me wrong, I'm just watching a movie." Oh, Chen Zihan blushed a little, then looked at Chen Lian and said, "Then I want to go, I also want to see The Lion King." Chen Lian paused and said, "Okay, then do you want to ask Zhang Qingqing?" Huh? Chen Zihan was stunned for a moment, and then said quickly, "Qingqing has something to do tonight, and she doesn't like cartoons." Tisk Chen Lian did meaningfully, and then said with a smile, "In that case, I won't call her, but Feudalong told me before that he also wants to see her. You can ask him in class this afternoon." Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian's strange smile and always felt that he was deliberately making fun of her. Are all artists like this? Bad taste. But for his own purposes, Chen Zihan decided to pretend not to notice, and said to him with a smile, "Okay, I will definitely ask this afternoon." "Okay, thank you for your hard work." Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan with a smile on his face, and added in his heart, "Thank you for your hard work, Sister Cha. There are still 10,000 words left after 12 o'clock. You can read it tomorrow. It will be updated later. I won't go to work tomorrow, so I decided to stay up late coding and playing games at the same time." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 178. Chapter 176 174. I do whatever you want. In the brightly lit study room, the princess's ethereal singing voice floated out from the speakers, and her ethereal crooning was very calming and calming. Chen Lian sat in front of the workbench, and gently scraped off a layer of thin iron wire bent into a semicircle in his hand on the unfinished sculpture. The originally awkward places instantly became harmonious. There is a set of carving knives placed on the workbench, but Chen Lian doesn't like to use those things now, and they are far less convenient than the thin wire he made himself. There is a big difference between Eastern and Western sculptures. Generally speaking, Chen Lian thinks that he is not good enough to come into contact with traditional domestic sculptures. Whether it is wood carving or stone carving, it is not easy to learn. In comparison, Western sculptures are easy to acquire and very suitable for modern society. However, modern sculpture is in a very contradictory state. It is alienated from society and criticizes industrial civilization, but it is also keen to use modern materials and techniques to help sculpture achieve better spatial breakthroughs. Artists have always been a group of contradictory people. All art and culture will go through such a contradictory process before transformation. This is especially true for social changes. Conflicts are the fundamental cause of development. Chen Lian is now in a conflicting and confused stage of life. He has no inspiration at all for painting. He tried painting several times, but in the end he tore it up because he was not satisfied. Today's sculptures don't have any creativity, they just use sculptures to appease their hearts. Sitting on a chair and turning the soft, shapeless clay into a shaped and three-dimensional statue little by little, Chen Lian will feel a sense of growth. The process of sculpting will calm Chen Lian's confused heart a lot. Time unknowingly disappeared little by little in the wire in Chen Lian's hand, and the sky outside gradually dimmed. When the time came to 6:30, Chen Lian heard a knock on the door outside the study, so he put down the wire in his hand and picked up the rag on the table and wiped his hands casually. The sludge was very sticky and difficult to wipe off when it got on his hands, but Chen Lian didn't care. He had to continue later anyway, so there was no need to wash his hands deliberately. Chen Lian came to the entrance, opened the door and looked at Chen Zihan, who was carefully dressed outside. He was not surprised that she came alone. As for whether she asked Fu Dalong, Chen Lian could guess. Chen Zihan gently pulled back his hair, raised the fruit in his hand and said, "This is my first time here, so I bought you some fruit." This surprised Chen Lian. He reached out to take the fruit and turned sideways and said, "Please come in, thank you for the fruit." Chen Zihan walked in and took a curious look at the luxuriously decorated house. He couldn't help but be surprised. He stood on the carpet at the door and looked at the clean floor. He asked a little embarrassedly, "Are there any slippers that I can change into?" Chen Lian lowered his head and glanced at the brown boots on Chen Zihan's feet, then bent down and took out a spare pair of slippers and placed them in front of her. Chen Zihan looked at the pair of pink slippers on the ground, pursed his lips and was curious about why Chen Lian had women's slippers, but he still grabbed Chen Lian's arm as planned and said, "Help me, these shoes are difficult to take off." Chen Lian dragged Chen Zihan's arm and watched quietly as she took off her long boots, revealing her slender calves and feet wearing white cotton socks. The little toes under the white cotton socks were as round and cute as orange petals. The moment they took off the shoes, they twisted restlessly, as if they were calling for freedom after seeing the light of day again. Chen Lian sniffed subconsciously, but he didn't smell any strange smell. It was estimated that Chen Zihan hadn't put on his boots for long and hadn't walked much. Chen Zihan, who was bending to change his shoes, looked up and noticed Chen Lian's movements. A trace of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. Then he lowered his head and sniffed gently to make sure he didn't smell any strange smell. Then he looked up at Chen Lian in confusion. Seeing that there was no strange expression on Chen Lian's face, Chen Zihan breathed a sigh of relief. He was glad that he had changed into new socks and shoes before coming here, and he didn't dare to walk too fast for fear that he would sweat. When Chen Zihan took off both boots and stepped on the soft slippers, he felt a sense of security and no longer worried when facing Chen Lian's eyes. It's similar to the sense of security that even if your socks are really torn or have a strange smell, you won't be exposed. A small inadvertent movement can make people nervous, and a pair of small slippers can give people a sense of security. Human beings are very strange creatures, with so many thoughts and emotions, that a special discipline of psychology has even been born, which shows the complexity of human psychology and the dangerous situation in urgent need of rescue. After arriving in the living room, Chen Zihan saw the entire room clearly, looking at the white luxurious leather sofa, the wool carpet on the floor, and several exquisitely framed oil paintings hanging on the walls. She fell in love with this place at that moment. In the restaurant, Chen Lian took a look at the fruit Chen Zihan bought. They were several kilograms of oranges, which looked ugly and sweet. Chen Lian glanced at the grease on his hands and gave up the idea of trying the oranges to see if they were sweet. After placing the oranges on the table, he walked to the living room and asked Chen Zihan to sit down. Chen Zihan sat on the sofa with his legs together, looking very well behaved. "Are you sure you want to watch The Lion King?" Chen Lian walked to the TV and asked. Chen Zihan hummed, and Chen Lian bent down and took out the CD and put it into the VCD. He also thoughtfully brought Chen Zihan snacks and soda. Chen Zihan was a little cramped sitting on the sofa. Seeing Chen Lian preparing snacks and soda so thoughtfully, the tension in his heart dissipated a lot. He followed Chen Lian's figure closely, looking forward to him watching a movie on the sofa with her. It would be even better if we could feed each other snacks and have a bottle of soda. Under the dim light of the TV, Chen Zihan's cheeks were slightly red. What girl wouldn't be pregnant? Watch a movie twice? Chen Lian would not do such a thing. Looking at the snacks and soda on the coffee table, and then at the title of The Lion King that was playing, Chen Lian nodded with satisfaction, and then said to Chen Zihan, "Look slowly, I have to go to the snack and soda refrigerator first. There's still some in there. You're welcome." Oh. Chen Zihan nodded subconsciously, then stared at Chen Lian, turned around, walked into the study and slammed the door. "Well, what is this for? Is that how the script is written? I didn't come to your house to watch a movie. I didn't just watch it in the living room alone. Man. Did you make a mistake?" In the past, Chen Lian wouldn't mind watching movies with Chen Zihan, but now he just wants to quietly make sculptures and think about life. As for why Chen Zihan was allowed to watch the movie, it was just because it would make things unrelated to philosophy and art appear in his life, which could adjust his mood very well. Chen Lian also wanted to find a few other good friends and sisters, but after thinking about it, he still didn't dare to go, for fear that they would be the next Gong Li. The nightmare he had that day was still fresh in his memory, and he couldn't help but be afraid when he thought about it. In the study room, Chen Lian looked at Simba standing on the cliff with his head held high on the table, looked at it carefully, picked up the wire and continued to refine it. Chen Zihan was sitting blankly on the sofa in the living room. The colorful pictures and exciting music on the TV could not attract her attention at all. What's so great about cartoons? Only kids like it? In Nortel's dormitory, Zhang Qingqing, who was lying bored on the bed, suddenly sneezed, turned over, pulled off the quilt on her body, and muttered a curse. Chen Zihan, a heartless man, left his sisters to go out to play alone. On the TV, Simba and his friends were walking happily in the forest, but outside the TV, Chen Zihan was sitting alone on the sofa, frowning, looking angrily at the study with the door closed. I didn't really come to watch the movie, so what should I do now? Chen Zihan sat on the sofa for a while, not daring to disturb Chen Lian's creation, so he could only pick up a bag of snacks and watch TV boredly. But Chen Zihan was attracted by the movie just as he watched it, and the snacks in his hands were not touched for a long time. Hee, the cartoon is quite interesting. Chen Zihan was watching the movie with such relish that he had forgotten the purpose of coming here. More than an hour later, Chen Zihan looked at Simba, who had become the king of the forest, with red eyes, as if he was inspired by Simba's courage to move forward, and finally remembered what he was here for. After coming back to his senses, Chen Zihan looked at the half-eaten chocolate bar in his hand, put it on the table, stood up and wandered around the living room. The living room and dining room are very clean, which shows that Chen Lian is a person who pays attention to hygiene and is not lazy. There are traces of cooking in the kitchen, and there are many and rich ingredients in the refrigerator, which shows that he enjoys life. There are several books placed by the bedside in the bedroom, all of which have marks of reading, indicating that he is a man of culture and good habits. The clothes in the wardrobe are neat and hung in categories, indicating that he is an organized person. There was only one set of toiletries in the bathroom, indicating that he lived alone. This is the most important. However, there were no photos in the whole room, no photos with his family and no photos of himself. This means that he has a bad relationship with his family, and he is not a narcissistic person? Chen Zihan was not sure about the last point, but after observing this circle, she found that Chen Lian really perfectly matched all her fantasies about her partner. It's perfect, the only flaw is that it might be a little bit bad taste. Chen Zihan was very sure that she was attracted to Chen Lian. She could feel Chen Lian's admiration for her when they were in school and having dinner together. It's just that she can't understand why Chen Lian would leave her alone here and run to create by herself. Can't she stop the inspiration? It didn't look like he was very anxious before, so it was intentional. Want to take the initiative? Chen Zihan felt as if he had figured out Chen Lian's thoughts, and walked to Chen Lian's study with light steps. He raised his hand to knock on the door, but was afraid of disturbing Chen Lian, so he raised his hand, grasped the handle, and gently twisted and pushed it away. A gap. Chen Zihan bent over and took a sneak peek inside, and found that Chen Lian was concentrating on playing with mud. Well, just playing in the mud, Chen Zihan is sure of this. What Chen Lian was holding in his hands was just mud. He was kneading and squeezing it, looking extremely happy. Have you made a mistake? If you leave such a pure, beautiful, and invincible girl to play, why are you playing in the mud? If you have the ability, come and knead me. Are you a child of 7 or 8 years old? For an incompetent child like Chen Lian, Chen Zihan immediately decided to give him some color and let him know that beautiful girls are much more interesting than mud. Chen Zihan opened the door and walked in. He walked straight in front of Chen Lian, raised his legs and sat on Chen Lian's workbench. Looking at Chen Zihan who came to disturb him, Chen Lian frowned, filled the clay in his hand on the cliff at the foot of Simba, wiped it with his fingers a few times, and then raised his head and looked at Chen Zihan. Chen Zihan looked down at Chen Lian, raised his hand and gently unbuttoned a shirt button, leaned down and looked into Chen Lian's eyes and asked, "Am I not as attractive as Niba?" Glancing at the gleam of spring on Chen Zihan's collar, Chen Lian shook his head calmly, his eyes calm as if confirming an extremely correct fact. Chen Zihan stared at Chen Lian with wide eyes and couldn't tell for a moment whether he was lying or whether he really thought he was not as attractive as Niba. Are all boys so childish? They are either playing in the mud or picking up branches and pretending to be heroes. But you are already in your 20s, why are you still like this? Chen Lian leaned back on the chair, grabbed a piece of clay and kneaded it in his hands. His fingers were covered with gray clay, and he didn't care at all about Chen Zihan's anger. When I want to create or study, no one is attractive, not even Bai Qing, let alone Chen Zihan. Chen Lian's calm gaze made Chen Zihan feel a little frightened. He couldn't help but get down from the workbench and hurriedly buttoned up the collar. I'm so confused, why did I do such a stupid thing on impulse? Chen Zihan regrets it so much now. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan like this, then sat up and said seriously, first of all, this is not playing with mud, this is sculpture. Secondly, I don't like others to disturb my creation. Finally, there are many movie CDs outside. If you are bored, you can choose one. Watch your favorite movie, or go back to school now. Facing Chen Lian's serious and majestic look, Chen Zihan lowered his head timidly like a primary school student in training. After he finished speaking, he whispered an apology in a low voice, and then ran away quickly. After running out of the study, Chen Zihan's heart couldn't stop beating. He felt that Chen Lian just now was so magical that he almost couldn't control himself and bent down and bowed his head to admit his mistake. Fortunately, I got it under control. Chen Zihan patted his chest gently, and suddenly realized that he seemed to have admitted his mistake and said, I was sorry. It was just right. You are obviously about the same age as me, but why do you have the majesty of a superior? Chen Zihan turned his head and glanced at the open door of the study room, hesitated for a while, then returned, showed a cute smile at Chen Lian, and then whispered, I'll close the door for you. Chen Lian raised his head and glanced at Chen Zihan, then bowed his head and continued working. Seeing that Chen Lian had no other reaction, Chen Zihan carefully closed the door. The fingers holding the handle were very hard, but the closing speed was very slow. After closing the door gently, he couldn't help but let out a breath. Chen Lian in the room didn't care what Chen Zihan was feeling outside, he just needed the clay and continued to fill the clip at Simba's feet. After a while, Chen Lian heard the sound of the TV in the living room and then gradually lowered it. He raised his head and chuckled, and continued working. Chen Zihan in the living room took the remote control to turn down the volume, then picked up a chocolate bar and took a bite. His eyes were not on the TV but in the direction of the study, not knowing what he was thinking. In the room, Chen Lian was thinking about whether to destroy the Simba that had just been made in front of him. If someone knew that the great artist Chen Lian's first sculpture was the Lion King, would they think it was unartistic? After thinking briefly for 2 seconds, Chen Lian gave up the idea. If he really ruined this work and didn't want to admit it, that would be really unartistic. Chen Lian laughed self-deprecatingly. There was indeed something wrong with his recent mentality. If he had never had such thoughts before. What exactly happened? Chen Lian rubbed the grease on his fingers and fell into thinking. Is it because Gong Li is pregnant? Chen Lian thought of this immediately, and then shook his head. This was just one of the reasons. Perhaps it is because of director Yang's words that art is a language, but it has completely disappeared in China. Chen Lian thought about various problems over and over again, while looking at himself, reminding each other that he seemed to be timid after returning from Venice. I began to add politics and business to art, and began to actively cater to them. I forgot my original intention of doing art in the first place. At that time, I just wanted to be happy and satisfied. Now I have almost lost this original intention. I am not short of money, and I am not seeking fame, so why should I consider what I have and what I don't have? Chen Lian took a deep breath, solemnly picked up the little Simba on the workbench, and placed it on his IDE bookshelf. Once the work is done in the studio, it is immediately sent to drying to complete the final steps. You should use the Simba to remind yourself not to lose courage, not to be confused, and to move forward bravely. Chen Lian looked at his hands full of putty, opened the study door and came to the living room. He looked at Chen Zihan who was sleeping on the sofa, shook his head slightly and wondered why she didn't go back to the dormitory to sleep. Do you believe in yourself so much? But I have changed now. Chen Lian glanced at Chen Zihan, who was curled up on the sofa and pouting unconsciously, and suspected that she had done nothing good in her dream. Chen Lian went to the bathroom and washed his hands with soap over and over again until all the grease between his nails was cleaned. Then he wiped his hands and came to the living room, squatting opposite Chen Zihan and looking at her long eyelashes that were trembling slightly. Chen Zihan, who had just woken up, was extremely nervous, but he still closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep, especially looking forward to what Chen Lian would do to him, so that he could legitimately rely on him. Get up if you're not asleep. It's almost 11 o'clock now and we can't go back to school. Chen Lian's voice rang in Chen Zihan's ears. Chen Zihan, who was pretending to sleep, pursed his lips and opened his eyes to see Chen Lian's serious face. He immediately pursed his lips and sat up obediently. Okay, let's talk about it. What are we going to do tonight? Chen Lian sat down opposite Chen Zihan and asked. Chen Zihan raised his head slightly, glanced at Chen Lian, and whispered, whatever you do. There is also a chapter where a large part of it turned red during the test. I guess it was put in after I posted it. I will revise it during the day and then post it again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 179. Chapter 177-175. Why do you want to bully me? The streets were empty and noisy at night, and the scarlet charcoal fire in the barbecue grilled the mutton skewers until they were sizzling with oil. The spicy aroma of mutton kebabs blown by the breeze instantly adds a hint of fireworks to the night. Chen Lian picked up a skewer of mutton and took a bite. He looked at Chen Zihan sitting opposite and asked, "Would you like some more?" "No need, I'm full." Chen Zihan sat on the small wooden stool, holding his chin and looking at Chen Lian, with a grain of cumin in the corner of his mouth. Chen Lian looked at the corner of her mouth, pointed his finger, and then handed over a piece of paper. After reacting, Chen Zihan quickly took the paper and wiped the corners of his mouth. He looked at Chen Lian with some embarrassment and awkwardly picked up the cup and took a sip of the cold beer. "But in my heart, I was thinking about what to do after eating. I couldn't go back to the school dormitory, and I didn't know if Chen Lian would take me. If Chen Lian doesn't accept him, then tonight will be a failure. The courage he finally mustered up will be lost. He doesn't know when he will be able to accumulate it next time." After Chen Lian finished eating the mutton skewers in his hand, he wiped his mouth, drank the last sip of beer in the cup, breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Chen Zihan who was sitting opposite and asked, "Are you ready later? What should I do? Help you open a hotel?" "No. It's such a waste," Chen Zihan, who had already planned in his mind, said immediately. Chen Lian raised his eyebrows and said deliberately, "Then I can't let you sleep on the street. You can't go back to the school dormitory." "Then I can go to your house." Chen Zihan's voice became smaller and smaller, fearing that Chen Lian would ruthlessly reject him the next second. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan's nervous look and couldn't help but laugh. The little girl was still a bit thin-skinned and had some tricks up her sleeve, but not much. Seeing Chen Lian laughing at Chen Zihan, he realized that he was doing it on purpose. He bit his lip and looked at him aggrievedly, wanting to pick up the sign on the table and give it to him. "You deliberately laughed at me, are you such a bully?" Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian angrily and aggrieved, like an angry little kitten. Chen Lian stopped smiling and looked at her and said seriously, "Have you discovered that I am different from what you thought? If I were a liar, you would have been wiped clean by now." After saying this, Chen Lian said no more and went directly to the boss to settle the bill. Chen Zihan is a top student. Anyone who can pass the major is definitely not a fool and will definitely understand what he means. Looking at Chen Lian's back, Chen Zihan pouted and muttered, "But I know you're not a liar, otherwise you'd really think I'm stupid." No one is a fool, and Chen Zihan is no exception. The reason why she was able to get Chen Lian to be willing to give up today is because she really has a good impression of Chen Lian. It may not be enough to say that she likes him, but she is not blindly impulsive. After Chen Lian came back after paying the bill, Chen Zihan immediately stood up and followed him, still looking aggrieved and pitiful. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan's appearance and couldn't help but said, "Don't make it seem like I'm bullying you. You were already bullying me, and you deliberately laughed at me." Chen Zihan clasped his fingers, reached out to grab the corner of Chen Lian's coat, and whispered, "Anyway, you can't leave me alone outside today." Chen Lian, I had heard that Fu Dalong said that Chen Zihan was cute and coquettish. I always thought it was a lie, but I didn't expect it to be true. Be normal. I didn't say I would leave you alone. Besides, you are a college student in your early 20s, not an elementary school student." Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan helplessly, and then took his clothes off her. "Take it out in your hand." Oh, Chen Zihan reached out and grabbed Chen Lian's clothes, as if he would suddenly abandon her and run away. Looking at Chen Zihan like this, Chen Lian couldn't figure out how she could play Guo Fu so well. How could she look like a coquettish young lady, and how could she look like a professional villain? She is more suitable to play Qianyao drama than Chen Miran, and the soft and weak White Lotus heroine may be more suitable for her. Chen Lian let Chen Zihan hold onto the corner of his clothes, and brought Chen Zihan back like he was walking with a baby. After returning to Chen Lian's house, Chen Zihan obviously relaxed a lot, and loosened his grip on Chen Lian's hand. Thinking of what might happen later, he suddenly became shy. Tonight I can touch the dream ABS of all the girls in the school, haha. I can't hold back my laughter. Chen Lian glanced at Chen Zihan, took her to the second bedroom and said, "You can sleep in this room tonight. If there are new towels in the bathroom cabinet for bathing and washing, you can use whatever you want. Just a little, don't disturb me, I'm sleeping, don't wake me up when you leave tomorrow." Although he had expected it, Chen Zihan still felt a little disappointed and wanted to touch his abdominal muscles. "But more importantly, I feel that I really saw the right person, so I said you are not a liar. But if you take the initiative again, it would be fine. I can't strip myself naked and send it to your bed. What girl would do such a thing?" Su Jinglei was drinking and chatting with friends in a bar in Xinjiakao when she suddenly sneezed and felt that the weather was getting colder. Chen Lian was getting ready to go to bed after taking a shower in the master bedroom. As soon as he took off his clothes and went to bed, Chen Zihan's voice came from outside. "Are you asleep?" Chen Zihan, who was standing at the door, shouted tentatively. Chen Lian opened his eyes, lifted the quilt, wrapped himself in his nightgown helplessly and got up to open the door. "What's wrong?" Chen Lian asked, looking at Chen Zihan who was still fully dressed and not washed. Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian, who was only wrapped in a nightgown with a wide open collar, glanced at his chest, and then asked with a blushing face, "Do you have any extra pajamas?" Chen Lian tightened his pajamas and said silently, "You plan to stay here forever, and you still need pajamas." After saying that, Chen Lian closed the door, took out a piece of Mr. Zhou's summer pajamas from the corner of the closet, then opened the door and threw it to Chen Zihan and asked, "Is there anything else?" Chen Zihan looked at the women's pajamas in his hand and was stunned for a moment. Why are there women's pajamas? And it has been worn before. Could it be from Chen Miran or Gong Li? While Chen Zihan was stunned, Chen Lian had already closed the door and went back to sleep. More than half an hour later, Chen Zihan took a nice bath, dried himself, picked up the pajamas and put them on, but why was it so strange? Chen Zihan looked down at the tight pajamas on his body, looking at the plump grooves squeezed out, and subconsciously covered his chest. He felt that this pajamas was so inappropriate. Why can an ordinary pajamas look sexy and seductive? There is a 10 centimeter height difference between Chen Zihan and Mr. Zhou, and the size of their clothes is naturally one size different. In addition, Chen Zihan's figure is much better than Mr. Zhou's, so an ordinary pajama becomes a tight-fitting sexy pajama. It's a pity that Chen Lian is already asleep by now, otherwise he would definitely not be able to sleep while watching this scene. Chen Zihan opened the bathroom door and took a look. After finding that Chen Lian didn't come out, he walked out relievedly. However, I was a little confused in my mind whether I should ask Chen Lian to change into another one. This pajama was so uncomfortable to wear. How could I sleep at night? Chen Zihan was a little confused about whether he should go to Chen Lian to get another piece of clothing. The way he looked now seemed like he was going to seduce others. Thinking of this, Chen Zihan was a little eager to try. He lowered his head and glanced at his plump and tight pajamas. He felt very confident. Dong dong dong. Chen Lian, who had just fallen asleep, heard the knock on the door and opened his eyes irritably, wondering why it was so difficult to have a good sleep. Dong dong dong. Listening to the persistent knocking on the door, Chen Lian got up irritably, put on his nightgown and impatiently opened the door. Just as he was about to open his mouth to get angry, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. Where did the sexy lingerie come from? Is Chen Zihan so white, so big, daring? Facing Chen Lian's surprised look, Chen Zihan sluggishly covered his chest and whispered softly, "These pajamas are too small. Do you have other pajamas?" Pajamas. Chen Lian looked carefully up and down before he couldn't help but nod. It was indeed too small. You should really let Mr. Zhou take a look. Your loose and comfortable pajamas almost turn into children's clothes when worn by others. You really have no talent. However, Mr. Joe has a Lolita body and a sister's heart, while Chen Zihan, on the contrary, is very coquettish. If not, you can wear yours while I wear it. This one is really too tight. Chen Zihan grabbed the belt of Chen Lian's nightgown and shook it slightly. If she applied any force, the nightgown would be ripped off by her. Chen Lian felt a little headache and pressed his belt to prevent her from taking advantage of him. What pajamas are you wearing when sleeping? I'm really convinced. Just wait. Chen Lian took back his belt, turned around and went into the room to find a piece of his own pajamas and threw it to Chen Zihan. Is it okay now? It's okay. I really want to sleep. Chen Lian held the door and looked at Chen Zihan and asked. Chen Zihan held the pajamas and saw that Chen Lian didn't look moved at all. He wondered if he was unattractive. How could he sleep like this? Chen Zihan subconsciously puffed up his chest, making the tight pajamas even more turbulent. But the only response Chen Zihan received was a slamming of the door. Chen Lian closed the door and locked it. He couldn't help but rolled his eyes and took off his pajamas and went to bed. Chen Zihan thought he was someone else. I haven't recovered from the sage time yet, so I don't have time to play this kind of game with the little girl. Looking at the closed door, Chen Zihan was stunned for a long time, then suddenly lowered his head and turned around to leave in dejection. I was hit hard tonight. I was hit hard. Chen Zihan was lying on the bed holding Chen Lian's pajamas, tossing and turning. He sighed and touched his beautiful body, and then picked up Chen Lian's pajamas and smelled them. He didn't know. What's going on in my head? On the other side, Chen Lian slept soundly. He didn't pay attention to the temptation of last night's pajamas. He was not an ignorant Chu brother, so he didn't take this little scene lightly. Maybe it was because Chen Zihan was too young at this time and lacked a touch of charm. There were so many good-looking people that he couldn't just sleep with each one. The next morning, Chen Lian got up from the bed in a daze. When he left the bedroom, he saw that the door of the second bedroom was closed tightly and there was no movement in the living room. Chen Lian turned his head and glanced at the entrance and found that Chen Zihan's shoes were still at the door. Suddenly he frowned and knocked on the door of the second bedroom. Chen Zihan, did you forget that you have to go back to school today? You want to stay here forever? On the bed in the second bedroom, Chen Zihan hugged Chen Lian's pajamas and nestled in the soft quilt. Hearing the sound outside, he pouted and said something unknown, turned over and went back to sleep. She didn't fall asleep last night. She didn't fall asleep until about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was strange to wake up. Chen Lian shouted several times but got no response, so he opened the door and went in. Chen Zihan didn't have any precautions and didn't even lock the door. As soon as he opened the door and entered, Chen Lian was about to call Chen Zihan when he saw her sleeping in a messy position on the bed. She was still wearing Mr. Joe's pajamas, but her top was piled messily on her chest. Her slender waist and her belly was exposed, and even half of her snow-white hemisphere was exposed. Chen Lian glanced at her and turned around to go out. Don't look at me if I'm not polite. This girl is too dishonest when sleeping. Chen Zihan was in a daze when he heard the sound of the door opening. He opened his eyes in a daze and saw Chen Lian in the room with his back to him. Chen Zihan barked subconsciously, like the coquettish sound of a cat waking up from sleep. Then he rubbed his eyes and sat up and shouted to Chen Lian, "Why are you here? Can't you help it anymore? I knew I'm not that bad." Listening to Chen Zihan's disapproving words, Chen Lian quickly shook his head and wanted to go out. "Don't leave." Chen Zihan suddenly got off the bed and hugged Chen Lian from behind, hugging him and saying aggrievedly, "Why do you dislike me so much?" Chen Lian's head was pounding. He was going nowhere. He gently opened Chen Zihan's hand and said in the gentlest tone, "It's almost 8 o'clock now. Teacher Li's class is in the morning. Do you want to think about what you should do first, what to do?" Huh? Chen Zihan was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Chen Lian to say this, and then stared blankly at Chen Lian as he walked out and closed the door. No, why would he do this? No. Did I skip the class teacher's class? It's over, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Chen Zihan suddenly woke up. Men are nothing. Skipping class is really going to kill you. Teacher Li will definitely punish her. It's a trivial matter to do leg pressing, but she's afraid that if she keeps practicing, she will die. Chen Zihan seemed to have seen his tragic fate. He hurriedly changed his clothes and no longer cared about acting like a spoiled child. But when he came out after changing his clothes, he saw Chen Lian sitting on the sofa drinking water, and he still ran over unwillingly. Chen Zihan looked at the lazy Chen Lian and couldn't help but reach out and rub his head. His hair was so soft and comfortable. Chen Lian raised his head and looked at Chen Zihan. He really didn't understand what she was doing. As soon as he opened his mouth, Chen Zihan held his head and kissed him. It seemed that it was not enough. Chen Zihan even put his hand into his nightgown and touched it. A handful of his abs. Haha, I made you bully me yesterday. I earned it back. Chen Zihan laughed loudly and wanted to run away, but unfortunately Chen Lian caught her, pinned her down on the sofa and slapped her twice on the butt. Snapped. Snapped. The crisp sound immediately echoed throughout the living room. Chen Zihan's face turned red and he groaned, and his whole body went limp against Chen Lian. Chen Lian let out a breath of anger, looked at Chen Zihan who was still lying on top of him, snorted and said, "If you don't leave yet, I really want Teacher Li to punish you." Oh. It's too late. Chen Zihan reacted immediately, quickly got up from Chen Lian, made a face at Chen Lian with a red face, and ran away with his boots. I don't know what happened, but after such a fuss, Chen Zihan suddenly felt that his relationship with Chen Lian seemed to be one step closer, and maybe he could succeed smoothly next time. I'm coming over again tonight. For revenge. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 182. Chapter 178-176. Occupy your bathtub. Please subscribe. The cold wave from Siberia has enveloped the capital, and a bleak cold wind has quietly invaded. The locust trees in the alley and the ginkgo trees in the yard have turned yellow, and fallen leaves swayed from the branches in the cold wind, covering the ground with a layer of golden decoration. Chen Lian was sitting in the small courtyard, flipping through Chen Myron's financial statements for Luluakio's crew. There were so many messy purchases and expenditures that he put down the statements with a headache after looking at them for a while. This thing is too unfamiliar to him. He doesn't understand many things, nor does he understand the actual situation of each expenditure. It is no different from reading a Bible. Chen Lian returned the report to Chen Myron and said, "You can take care of these things yourself. Is it finalized and in post-production now?" "Yes, originally there weren't many scenes left, and now I'm mainly doing post-production," Chen Myron explained in a slightly unsatisfying way. "I haven't had enough of it yet, and the filming is over. The money we invested is mainly they are all used for post-production." Seeing Mei Chen like this, Chen Lian smiled and pinched her smooth cheeks and said, "Producers don't just manage money on the crew. They are also responsible for selling the film after the post-production is completed. You have to learn a lot." Speaking of this, Beauty Chen felt even more helpless. She looked at Chen Lian and said with a wry smile, "What's the matter with me?" Zhang Qiujun said that he will be responsible for this matter and guarantee that the investment will not be wasted. "Are you stupid?" He said he was responsible and didn't care. Chen Lian said funnily, "Even if you just follow and watch, you can get to know the people in the TV station. This is a good time to accumulate contacts, but this time you follow and watch, just talk less and watch more." "I know." Chen Myron raised her face and said unconvinced, "I also know many people from the TV station." "Okay." Chen Lian looked at Myron Chen who was a little restless, pondered for a while and said, well, let's talk to Jang Kyo-jun and try to see if you can sell the film to Won Won. Didn't you and Kyan Yao cooperate several times? Okay, give it a try and treat it as exercise. After hearing Chen Lian's suggestion, Chen Myron's eyes lit up. After thinking about it for a while, it might actually work. She immediately hugged Chen Lian's face and kissed her, saying, I'm going to make a call right now. After saying that, Chen Myron let go of Chen Lian's neck and ran to contact Kyan Yao anxiously. Who says women don't have career aspirations? Before they have children, women's career aspirations are no worse than men's. Only after they have children will they put more energy into the career of motherhood. Speaking of which, this is much stronger than that of men. Anyway, Chen Lian now knows that he is about to have a child, and he has no awareness of being a father at all. I don't know how Gong Li is doing in Singapore. There is no video call these days. If I want to know more about Gong Li's condition, I can only make phone calls. I can't feel the joy of the child growing little by little in the mother's belly. Chen Lian thought about waiting for a few days to find time to fly to Singapore to see Gong Li. He couldn't really be a dumping dad. That would be too heartless. But even if you want to go to Singapore, you have to wait for a while. The winner is about to be released. This is Chen Lian's first theatrical movie, which is still very meaningful. In addition, Cheng Shifen also wants to come to the mainland. After meeting with her, we will talk about going to Singapore. After making a silent plan, Chen Lian saw that Beauty Chen hadn't come back yet, so he went to the living room to take a look and found that she was sitting on the sofa and chatting happily on the phone. After seeing Chen Lian come out, Chen Myron made a gesture to him, then continued chatting while holding the phone. Chen Lian sat helplessly next to her, looking at Beauty Chen's calves in plush pajamas. He picked them up and squeezed them out of boredom. Her delicate feet were very cute with a pair of furry beige socks. While talking on the phone, Beauty Chen felt a little itchy on the soles of her feet. She rolled her eyes at Chen Lian, put her feet into Chen Lian's arms, and continued on the phone. Chen Lian played for a while and saw that Beauty Chen was still chatting enthusiastically. He glanced at the time on the phone, put down her legs and whispered in her ear, I'm going back first and come back tomorrow. It's up to you. As soon as she heard that Chen Lian was leaving, Chen Myron immediately covered the phone and asked in a low voice, I'll finish the call soon. Can we go to Fangshanfang together in the evening? Chen Lian shook his head slightly and made a drawing gesture. Seeing that Chen Lian was really going to leave, Chen Myron immediately asked, then when will you come tomorrow? Looking at Beauty Chen holding the phone, Chen Lian smiled and rubbed her head and said, let's do it tomorrow night. You can get down to business first. Oh, then I'll wait for you at home tomorrow, Chen Myron whispered, took Chen Lian's hand and kissed him before waving and letting him go. Chen Lian looked at Mei Chen, who was chatting about work on the phone, and thought it would be good to find something for her to do so that she would not be like Gong Li, who had to focus on having children and forcing marriage. After returning home, Chen Lian came to the study and looked at the layout of the courtyard and the photos taken in the studio. After thinking for a long time, he took out a piece of drawing paper and started sketching. Installation art is not decoration. Chen Lian will not touch the structure of the courtyard. Instead, he will place artworks in the space of the courtyard and integrate it with the entire courtyard space. Artworks exist alone, and they also echo the space. The connection between the two is very subtle, and both are indispensable. Chen Lian took a pencil and started sketching on the paper. After spending more than 10 minutes, a set of strange-looking patterns appeared on the blank drawing paper. Looking at the sketch on the drawing paper, Chen Lian thought carefully for a while, put down the pencil in his hand, picked up a new piece of clay, kneaded it in his hands, and planned to make a small model first to see how it would work. Chen Lian compared the photos and spent more than an hour making a rough model of a courtyard house. Although it was not precise enough, it was enough for experiments. After the model of the courtyard was finished, Chen Lian began to construct his own whimsical ideas on it. The straight, thick, and messy steel structure with strange regularity seemed to be drilled out of the ground, arching the flat bluestone floor of the courtyard high. Above the courtyard, 7 huge cement stone pillars descended from the sky and penetrated straight into the ground of the courtyard. The reinforced concrete forest is like growing and blooming in the ancient traditional courtyard house. Countless steel structures emerging from the ground are like the roots of the forest. They are devouring all the nutrients of the courtyard house and are about to completely submerge the building and make it disappear. In modern civilization, this is just Chen Lian's most basic idea, and it is just the framework of the entire work. When it is actually done, decorations and objects representing modern civilization must be continuously added for transformation. Looking at the model that was beginning to take shape, Chen Lian shook the table a few times. It was very solid and firm, but whether it could be built like this would have to be checked by a professional. After all, it involves the field of architecture. Chen Lian has only a little knowledge of this aspect and is not sure whether the structure he designed is solid. Art creation seems boring to many people, but for artists, the process of creation is very interesting and exciting, as if the width of life is expanded and the soul is stretched. Chen Lian was very involved. One moment he was scribbling on the drawing paper to modify his design, and the next moment he took the clay and kneaded out various shapes and added them to the model. In the dance practice room of Nortel, Chen Zihan practiced his body movements over and over again with a grimace and sweat dripping from his face. Li Qiji sat in the classroom holding a teacup and glanced at it from time to time until the time came to 6:30, almost time for dinner at home. He put away the teacup and stood up and looked at Chen Zihan, who was still practicing, and said, "Okay, tonight come here, don't be late for no reason next time, you don't look like a student at all." Hearing Li Qiji's words, Chen Zihan immediately collapsed and gasped, "I know Teacher Li, and I won't dare to do it again next time." Li Qiji nodded with satisfaction. Students should behave like students. What does it mean to be late for class? After waiting for Li Qiji to leave, Chen Zihan lay on the floor without any scruples, wiped the sweat from his face, and complained feebly, "Why don't you care if Chen Lian doesn't come to class?" Li Qiji, who originally went out to go home for dinner, was worried that Chen Zihan had practiced for too long and forgot to do stretching and recovery, so he turned around and came back to remind him. However, as soon as he walked to the door, he heard Chen Zihan complaining to himself, and black lines suddenly appeared on his forehead. Li Qiji hesitated at the door for a while, and finally snorted, picked up his stainless steel thermos cup, and turned around to leave. Chen Zihan, who vaguely heard the movement, sat up from the ground and glanced at the door. After seeing nothing, he breathed a sigh of relief, patted his chest, smelled the faint smell of sweat on his body, and wrinkled his nose. Sighed. It would be nice if I could take a bath, but public bathrooms can only shower, and the hot water supply is limited, which is very troublesome. Chen Zihan was sitting on the floor and suddenly thought of the big bathtub in Chen Lian's house. His eyes lit up and he immediately got up from the ground, took his things and ran out of the practice room. In the girls' dormitory, Zhang Qingqing prepared everything for taking a shower and sat on the bed waiting for Chen Zihan to come back. Going to take a shower together was not the most important thing. What was important was that she wanted to ask where Chen Zihan went last night. Her intuition told her that Chen Zihan definitely didn't go to meet some high school best friend yesterday. How could he stay up all night after seeing his high school best friend? Zhang Qingqing sat on the bed and scratched her back subconsciously. She felt that her back was itchy as if she had been stabbed. She wanted to wash it off when she went to take a shower later. It's a pity that she waited for more than 10 minutes before Chen Zihan came back. At this time, Chen Zihan had already arrived at the school gate and stopped a taxi with his hand. As soon as Su Jinglei came out of the school gate, she saw Chen Zihan stopping a taxi and getting in. She vaguely heard her telling the driver that she was going to Fangzhuang or some other community. It was a little far away, and she couldn't hear clearly which community it was, but the word Fangzhuang still caught her attention. Didn't Chen Lian live in Fangzhuang? Su Jinglei squinted her eyes and looked at the leaving taxi. She was basically sure that Chen Zihan was going to find Chen Lian. However, she couldn't figure out why Chen Zihan looked so embarrassed. There was still sweat on his forehead and he was wearing a jacket. Or practice clothes. Going to see Chen Lian like this? It doesn't feel very similar, and how did Chen Zihan and Chen Lian get together? Su Jinglei wouldn't be surprised if it was Zhang Qingqing. Su Jinglei couldn't figure it out, so she went to the phone booth and dialed the number she knew by heart, but it rang many times and no one answered. At Chen Lian's house, his cell phone was left in the living room and was ringing. Chen Lian in the study was focused on the drawings in front of him and didn't pay attention to the cell phone in the living room. Chen Zihan, who got into the taxi on the other side, tidied his messy hair, wiped the sweat from his face, and thought about how to act coquettishly later. Chen Zihan's face turned red at the thought of being pushed down on the sofa and spanked by Chen Lian in the morning, and now that he thought about it, he still felt the burning pain. It's so rude, how can you spank someone? Chen Zihan blushed and muttered in his heart. He didn't know what he thought of but suddenly raised his hand and covered his face with his clothes and snorted shyly. The driver in the driver's seat glanced at the little girl with a nymphomaniac face through the rearview mirror, subconsciously brushed his thin hair, and his foot on the accelerator was a little looser. Chen Zihan, who felt the speed of the car suddenly slowed down, turned to look outside the car window, and then couldn't help but said to the driver, "Uncle, can you drive faster? I have something urgent." "Uncle? You call me uncle? I'm only in my 30s, okay. Your uncle." The driver snorted coldly and immediately stepped on the accelerator to speed up. The little girl who has no eyesight should be sent to the place quickly without even wanting to take a second look. Chen Zihan didn't care what the bald old man was thinking, he was just looking forward to what would happen next. If you deliberately annoy him, will he get spanked? As for how to annoy him, it's too simple, touch his abdominal muscles and eat his tofu. Surprise him and kiss him. Hey, Chen Zihan was sitting in the back seat and giggling. The driver took one look at it and couldn't help but curl his lips. He turned out to be a fool. No wonder he couldn't use his eyes well. As Chen Zihan propped her chin up and looked out the car window, in her imagination, it was like a couple's interaction, a sweet little game in love. Chen Lian, who had no idea that he was in love, looked at the dozens of messy drawings and the overwhelmed and collapsed models in front of him. He sighed, sorted out his thoughts, and gave up the idea of continuing. He planned to buy some books about architecture tomorrow. Come back and take a look. It is easier to design if you have some relevant basic knowledge. Otherwise, we will just build a castle in the air like today, and it will collapse in a moment. After Chen Lian organized everything in the study, he saw that his sticky hands were covered with mud. After rubbing them casually, many tiny mud strips fell out, just like the scene when a bath master uses a mud rub. The thought of taking a bath made Chen Lian want to take a bath, so he immediately ran to fill the water. Fortunately, he used an air energy water heater, otherwise it wouldn't be enough to fill a bathtub. Air energy water heaters are very niche. Electric energy and solar energy are mainly popular on the market now. People don't know much about air energy water heaters, and few people buy them. However, Chen Lian still knows something about this. If nothing else, it is at least 3 or 4 times more efficient than electrical energy. Just when Chen Lian put on the hot water and was about to take off his clothes and take a shower, there was a knock on the door. Chen Lian put down his hand in confusion, thinking that someone had just called him and didn't answer the phone, so he thought that something urgent had happened and came to the door. I immediately ran to open the door. Outside the door, Chen Zihan's face was red, and he listened carefully to the movement inside. When he noticed the sound of footsteps, he immediately adjusted his expression, showing a menacing and fierce look. As soon as Chen Lian opened the door, he saw Chen Zihan standing outside. If it was this girl, there should be nothing urgent to do with him. "Why are you here again?" Chen Lian held onto the door frame and looked at Chen Zihan, who was still wearing training clothes under his coat, and asked strangely, "You won't come over right after class, right? I'm here to take revenge on you." "Who told you to bully me this morning?" Chen Zihan deliberately looked angry and was about to rush inside. Seeing her like this, Chen Lian obviously wanted to rely on him and quickly blocked the door. Chen Zihan's little head hit Chen Lian's chest, and then he raised his head and looked at him deliberately aggrieved, his eyes blinking as if he was about to cry. "Don't be like this, tell me, what's going on?" Chen Lian asked calmly after watching Chen Zihan's performance. Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian's cold face. His emotion, which was just a pretense of grievance, turned into real grievance in an instant. He looked at him with red eyes, tugged on his clothes and whispered, "Why are you so mean to me? Do you hate me that much?" Of course, hating is not really disliked, but what is the reason for this inexplicable grievance? Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan's pitiful look, sighed helplessly and said, "Let's talk about it first." "Yeah." Chen Zihan raised his head and looked at Chen Lian, nodded twice, grabbed his clothes and followed him in. After entering, Chen Zihan heard the sound of water coming from the bathroom. He poked his head out from behind Chen Lian and glanced at the bathroom. He immediately grabbed Chen Lian's clothes nervously and asked, "Is there anyone else at home?" "No, I'm just about to put the water on for a bath." Chen Lian pulled his clothes out of Chen Zihan's hands. He really couldn't stand her pitiful look, so he asked especially helplessly, "Can you tell me why you came here now, Bar?" Chen Zihan rolled his eyes to see that Chen Lian didn't look like he was lying, and said deliberately, "You didn't lie to me, did you? Is there really no one at home? I want to go take a look." After saying that, Chen Zihan quickly ran to the bathroom door, opened the door and went in. Before Chen Lian could react, he heard a crisp locking sound coming from inside. Chen Lian was sitting on the sofa, looking at the locked bathroom, his head full of questions. What kind of trouble is this? Soon Chen Zihan's cheerful voice came from the bathroom, "Can I wear your nightgown after I take a shower?" In the quiet living room, Chen Lian wondered if he had heard wrongly. Did this girl come to take a shower with him? "I still plan to wash myself off and go to bed." No matter which answer he gave, Chen Lian was a little confused as to what kind of brain circuit this girl had. "This is the bath water I put in for myself. I even put a little duck in it. Doesn't this directly kill society? Let's update 5,000 words first." I originally planned to finish writing 10,000 words and put them in one chapter. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 183. Chapter 179 177. If you bully me, I will bully you too. The bathroom was filled with a light mist, and Chen Zihan's slender figure was looming in the mist. After Chen Zihan took off all his clothes, he tested the water temperature in the bathtub with his white and tender feet. The mild water temperature was just right. Chen Zihan immediately showed a satisfied expression, and then slowly entered the water with confidence. She lay slowly in the bathtub, feeling the comfort of being wrapped in hot water. The fatigue from practicing dancing all afternoon was dispelled, and she relaxed in the bathtub and let out a long sigh of relief. Looking at the little yellow duck floating on the water, Chen Zihan couldn't help but grab it and squeeze it hard before bursting into laughter. She had no idea that Chen Lian would put a little duck in the bathtub. "It's not as scary as I thought. Although it looks cold on the outside, it's very soft on the inside. After taking a shower, what should I do next?" Chen Zihan pinched the little duck and thought about how to find opportunities later. He only touched his abdominal muscles in the morning, but he had to find a way to take a bite tonight. I have to find a way to lick him. Chen Lian sat on the sofa in the living room and was stunned for a long time. He couldn't help but sigh and got up and went into the study. It was better to finish the installation art design in the studio tonight and not go out to work to save money. Awkward. It's all my fault that Mr. Joe bought a duck. It's so cute that it's hard not to use it. After closing the door in the study room, Chen Lian took a deep breath and sat in front of the workbench. He took out a piece of paper and started to type again on the paper. After all the fuss just now, Chen Lian felt that his brain was empty. My thinking has become more active. It seems that Chen Zihan's deliberate troublemaking is not without some benefit. The steel and concrete forest has swallowed up traditional buildings. We cannot just work on the appearance. After all, not everyone has feelings for traditional buildings, and not everyone has feelings for courtyards. Chen Lian does not want to set the theme of his work to be so small or narrow. There must be sufficiently special representative symbols to truly impress the hearts of the vast majority of viewers without distinction. Installation art itself is very controversial, and the audience's understanding of this art form is also one-sided. Those who like it will like it very much, while those who don't will think that you are crazy and have made a lot of garbage. Chen Lian didn't want his work to be criticized as rubbish, so he had to work hard on the details. More than half an hour later, Chen Zihan felt that the water temperature had turned cold before he got out of the bathtub, stood under the shower and started washing his hair. Smelling the floral-scented shampoo, Chen Zihan hummed in a good mood, not feeling at all that there was anything wrong with taking a shower at a man's house. After spending more than 10 minutes washing his hair, Chen Zihan simply wiped it, then picked up Chen Lian's nightgown and put it on. The large nightgown completely wrapped Chen Zihan like a cloak. Her fair skin was looming under the black nightgown. Chen Zihan posed several poses in front of the mirror. Her slender thighs were slightly raised and exposed a little from the gap in the nightgown, which looked particularly attractive. Looking at his beautiful and sexy self in the mirror, Chen Zihan nodded with satisfaction, feeling that he would definitely be able to take down Chen Lian this time and lick him smoothly. As for a woman chasing a man, Chen Zihan is very confident now. At worst, she might deliberately make Chen Lian angry and give him a chance to spank her. It hurts a little, but I can act coquettishly. As for the skill of coquettishness, Chen Zihan feels that he has become proficient in it. After coming out of the bathroom, Chen Zihan looked at the empty living room and suddenly thought, Chen Lian must have gone back to sleep. Why does this man like to sleep alone so much? Something's wrong with you. Chen Zihan immediately walked towards the bedroom. When passing by the study, he heard the rustling sound of pencils scratching on paper and stopped immediately. Chen Zihan stood at the door of the study room, wondering whether he should knock on the door and go in. Is he painting? Will it disturb her or make him angry if I go in? After struggling for 2 minutes, Chen Zihan carefully pushed the door of the study open a gap, lay down at the door and looked inside. The white and plump chest under the collar of her nightgown squeezed a beautiful arc on the doorframe. Chen Lian in the study heard the sound, raised his head and looked towards the door, and saw a dazzling white skin at a glance. The tip of the pencil in his hand suddenly broke due to the force of his fingers. The crisp cracking sound instantly caused the eyes of the two people inside and outside the door to collide. For a moment, the two people stared at each other through the gap in the door, neither of them speaking. The pencil with the broken tip in Chen Lian's hand rotated slightly in his subconscious movements. There was not much expression on his face, but his eyes took a few more glances at Chen Zihan's half-hidden figure still holding the pipa, and then he looked back and coughed softly. He yelled and said, "What's the matter with you? It's getting late, why don't you go back to school?" Hearing that Chen Lian wanted to drive him away again, Chen Zihan immediately opened the door and ran to Chen Lian, grabbing his lips and moaning, "Why do you always drive me away?" Chen Lian paused the spinning pencil in his hand, looked at Chen Zihan speechlessly and said, "What else? Can you please stay here? Then I promise you, Chen Zihan deliberately and jokingly tested Chen Lian's attitude, and gently fiddled with the hair hanging on his chest with his little hands, exposing the collar of his nightgown. Chen Lian squinted his eyes, then put down the pencil in his hand, stared into Chen Zihan's eyes and said, "What do you want to do? Like me? Want to fall in love?" Such a direct question made Chen Zihan feel a little embarrassed for a moment. He lowered his head and looked at Chen Lian, who was sitting there with a calm and confident expression. The psychological advantage he had finally established in his heart instantly collapsed. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan, who was silent. Just as he was about to speak, he heard her stomach growl twice. "Chen Lian, this girl's way of protesting is really special. I really don't know what to say next." Chen Zihan's face turned red with embarrassment, and she just wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. The toes in her cotton slippers almost dug holes in the soles of the shoes. "I'm so embarrassed and I want to die. But it's really the right time, Xiaodudu, you are awesome. Come back and be rewarded with meat, eggs and milk." After the two looked at each other awkwardly, Chen Lian was the first to break the silence and said, "Hey, you haven't eaten yet. I'll feed it to you. Do you want to add eggs?" 2. Chen Zihan immediately raised his head and said with a smile, his red face particularly bright. Chen Lian stood up helplessly and washed his hands. Down in the kitchen, he washed the mushrooms and flipped them over in a pot to make the soup. Then he added milk and water and boiled them. After boiling, turn off the heat and break in 2 eggs. Cover the pot and wait for a few dozen seconds for the eggs to solidify. Then turn on the heat and add the instant noodle powder packet, and then put the noodles in. Chen Zihan stood at the door in her nightgown and watched his skillful movements, with a smile on her lips. She felt that this feeling was simply great, exactly like what she had imagined before. "Want to add sausage?" Chen Lian asked as he took out a package of unopened ham sausage from the refrigerator. Chen Zihan looked at the red ham sausage and smelled the milky noodle soup. He couldn't help but swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "I want it." Yes, Chen Lian skillfully broke the casing of ham sausage, exposed the long ham, and then added it to the noodles. While the noodles were cooking over low heat, Chen Lian cut the tomatoes into slices and placed them on the noodles after they were out of the pot. "You're so awesome. This is the first time I've seen someone boil noodles with milk." Chen Zihan sat at the dining table, looking at the thick and delicious noodles in front of him, feeling that the simple instant noodles became particularly ritualistic in Chen Lian's hands. Chen Lian poured her a glass of sizzling Sprite, sat across the dining table, looked at her and said, "Eat, go back to school after eating." "Go back to school, go back to school, you know how to drive me away," Chen Zihan muttered softly, and then he was so attracted by the aroma of the food that he couldn't bear it anymore, picked up his chopsticks and started eating. Seeing Chen Zihan eating so happily, Chen Lian was also very satisfied. The greatest happiness for a chef is to see his food being eaten up. It's best to drink all the noodle soup. Otherwise, it means not giving face. Chen Zihan ate a few mouthfuls of noodles, then picked up the ham sausage. He didn't understand why Chen Lian didn't cut it into small pieces. It felt weird to have such a long piece. Chen Zihan took a bite of the ham sausage and licked her lips with her tongue, which was very sexy. Who says eating noodles can't be sexy? After Chen Zihan finished eating the noodles, he picked up the cup and drank the Sprite in one gulp, then leaned back on the chair and let out a contented sigh. Chen Lian sat opposite and looked at Chen Zihan like this. He didn't urge her to finish her meal and leave quickly, but just looked at her with a satisfied look on her face. Noticing Chen Lian's eyes, Chen Zihan stuck out his tongue shyly, feeling annoyed that he had eaten too seriously and forgot to think about the next countermeasures. Chen Lian put down his crossed legs and was about to speak when Chen Zihan immediately stood up and hugged the bowl and said, "I'm going to wash the dishes." She was afraid that Chen Lian would speak and drive her away the next second. Looking at Chen Zihan's back as he carried the bowl to the kitchen, Chen Lian rubbed his eyebrows and felt that this girl was a bit difficult to deal with, even more difficult than Su Jinglei. At least Su Jinglei is smart and knows how to advance and retreat, while Chen Zihan is as direct and childish as a fool and bold. It's like when you met a new classmate in elementary school who would play with you every day. Even if you ignored him and rejected him, he would be sad for a while and then come to play with you happily, as if he would never be angry. Same. It's hard for someone with such a character to refuse again and again. Chen Lian shook his head slightly, then got up and went to the study. Chen Zihan in the kitchen breathed a sigh of relief when he noticed that Chen Lian went to the study. Looking at the pool full of foam, he couldn't help but pat it with his little hand. Heartless man, huh? I won't leave. After 10 minutes of inking in the kitchen before washing a bowl, Chen Zihan cautiously came to the door of the study. Listening to the rustle of pencils inside, he had the good sense not to knock on the door again this time, but turned around and went to Chen Lian's bedroom. Looking at the 2-meter-wide bed, Chen Zihan jumped up and threw himself on it, sniffing and sniffing lightly. Then he pulled up the quilt and rolled on it, wrapping himself into a caterpillar and pupating on the bed. Chen Lian, who was drawing drawings in the study, heard the silly laughter coming from outside, and couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. He was so silly and cute. In other words, it is the pure stupidity of college students. She still hasn't officially entered the entertainment industry, but she still has innocence and cuteness. When she really enters the entertainment industry, these qualities will gradually diminish. But thinking about Chen Zihan later being called the second child in 10,000 years, Chen Lian didn't know what she would become after entering the industry. If she was really willing to go out, she wouldn't be the second female lead every time, right? There are only a handful of times. Is it because I haven't found the right person, or I just can't risk it? After walking for a while, Chen Lian continued to be busy drawing pictures. He just had a good inspiration and wanted to record it quickly. After writing and drawing in the study room for an unknown amount of time, Chen Lian put down his pen and rubbed his sore wrists and neck. He looked at the design draft that was gradually taking shape in front of him, shook his empty brain, and then got up and left the study room. Come out. It was quiet outside. Chen Zihan's shoes were still there next to the entrance. Chen Lian knew that she had not left. Looking at the bedrooms with closed doors, Chen Lian didn't bother to knock on the door and went directly to the bathroom to take a shower and get ready for bed. After taking more than 10 minutes to take a shower, Chen Lian realized that his nightgown had been worn away by Chen Zihan, so he had to wrap himself in a bath towel and go back to his bedroom. Pa! The moment the bedroom light was turned on, Chen Lian saw Chen Zihan wrap himself up like a caterpillar, lying on the bed with his head tilted and falling asleep, with a trace of crystal saliva at the corner of his mouth shining in the light. What a sin! I've only changed my bed sheets and quilt covers a few days ago. Although Chen Lian didn't have a strong misophobia, he still couldn't help but frown when he looked at the sheets soaked with saliva. The strong light from the chandelier made the sleeping Chen Zihan drowsily open his eyes. He saw Chen Lian at the door, wrapped only in a bath towel. His brain instantly woke up. Looking at the attractive abdominal muscles so close at hand, Chen Zihan immediately sat up. But she forgot that she was tightly wrapped in quilt, struggled for a while and couldn't sit up at all, and fell straight on the bed again. Seeing such a funny scene, Chen Lian couldn't help laughing, and said in an angry and amused voice, "Get up quickly, if you don't go back to school, go to sleep in the same room as yesterday, and change the sheets and quilt first, it's all covered in saliva." Huh? Drool. Chen Zihan was stunned for a moment. He lay on the bed and turned his head and glanced. Sure enough, he saw a small wet spot on the sheets. His face immediately turned red. He didn't even care that Chen Lian asked him to go to the second bedroom. The sleeping thing. Chen Lian leaned against the door and looked at Chen Zihan, who was rolling on the bed to get himself out. He didn't want to remind her that the waistband of her nightgown was loose and about to be gone. It seemed that Chen Zihan didn't care, or didn't want to care about these details. After getting up from the bed, he looked at Chen Lian and whispered, "I didn't mean it. Teacher Li punished me to dance all afternoon. I'm too tired." "Yes," Chen Lian hummed and said calmly, "you change it first. There are clean ones in the closet. After changing, go to bed immediately. You are not allowed to come back tomorrow." Oh, Chen Zihan knew that this was not the time to refute, so he changed the sheets first before talking about other things. "By the way, I can also show off my hands-on skills. I am also a good girl who is diligent and thrifty." Quickly taking out clean sheets and quilts from the closet, and after changing them with difficulty alone, Chen Zihan felt that he was almost exhausted. Why does Chen Lian need such a big quilt and so many pillows when he sleeps alone? Chen Zihan, who lacked social experience, couldn't figure out the use of so many pillows. After changing, Chen Zihan was too tired to move. He fell on the bed and looked at Chen Lian and said coquettishly, "I can't move. Can I sleep here? Your bed is so soft and comfortable." Chen Zihan hugged a soft pillow and turned over on the bed, as if he was just going to stay. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan's calves exposed under his black nightgown, suppressed the temptation in his heart, cleared his throat and said, "No. If the rabbit doesn't eat grass from the nest, Chen Lian will not make good friends with his classmates, which means that he will not have a good life in school in the future. I really thought that time management masters would not overturn things." After being rejected, Chen Zihan snorted and got into the quilt with only his little head exposed. He looked at Chen Lian and said, "I'm not leaving anyway." After finishing speaking, Chen Zihan lifted up the quilt and covered his head. He paused for a moment and then revealed his eyes to look at Chen Lian and said, "Unless you carry me over." Under the quilt that Chen Lian couldn't see, the corner of Chen Zihan's mouth raised a smile like a little fox. Chen Lian would naturally not be satisfied with Chen Zihan's request. "It's not like there are no bedrooms at home. Who can compete with you?" Chen Lian turned around and was about to leave when he heard Chen Zihan whispering to himself behind him, "The sheets I just changed are so comfortable. The bed in the master bedroom is so big and soft." Naturally, Chen Lian couldn't understand Chen Zihan's little tricks. He didn't want to talk to her at first, but when he thought this was his own home, why should he go to sleep in the second bedroom when these girls came? Su Jinglei was like this that day, and Chen Zihan did it again. The more Chen Lian thought about it, the angrier he became. Chen Zihan can't let Chen Zihan occupy his bathtub and his bed. Chen Lian immediately turned around and went back, planning to pack Chen Zihan and throw him into the second bedroom. But he didn't expect that as soon as he walked to the bed and bent down, Chen Zihan in the bed immediately jumped up and hooked his neck, pulling him down. "Hey, you can't run away. Come and let me touch you." "Chen Zihan, you are a girl, can you be more reserved?" "No, whoever asked your teacher to bully me, I will bully you too." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 184. Chapter 180-178. Thousands of gold scattered but come back again. In the brightly lit bedroom, the air conditioner slowly delivers warm air. The temperature in the room is gradually rising, and the charming atmosphere has become fiery. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan warily on the soft big bed. "Let go." Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan's guarded face, fearing that she would make a brutal charge in the next second. Chen Zihan pouted and looked at Chen Lian. He didn't expect that such a good opportunity just now would be run away by him. "Just forget it if you are so stupid." But he didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. Chen Zihan pretended to be calm and said, "I won't let go." Chen Lian raised his eyebrows, broke away and left. How could a little girl have so many dramas? Get up quickly and go back to school. Chen Zihan puffed up his face and felt angry and annoyed, but he thought that if Chen Lian really drove him away, he would be too shameless to see others. Although no one knew she was coming, how could she hold her head up in front of Chen Lian in the future? Now that she had reached this point, there was no room for maneuver at all. Chen Lian went outside to calm down, and then returned to the bedroom. Looking at Chen Zihan, who had not moved yet, he felt very angry. I really regard this as my own home. I can come here whenever I want and never leave if I don't want to. Looking at Chen Zihan, who was covering himself with a quilt and pretending to sleep, Chen Lian walked over and hit him a few times across the quilt. Chen Zihan grunted in pain and continued to pretend to sleep with his head covered. Looking at Chen Zihan, who was pretending to be dead like an ostrich, Chen Lian really couldn't laugh or cry. How could this girl be so arrogant? Okay, don't pretend to be dead, Chen Lian said with a headache. First of all, I don't know how to fall in love, and secondly, I don't know how to fall in love in school. It's useless for you to do this. After hearing Chen Lian's words, Chen Zihan showed his head, blinked at Chen Lian, and asked unwillingly, why? There is no reason. Chen Lian looked at Chen Zihan's beautiful big eyes and said, so don't waste your time. Is it because of Chen Mei and Gong Li? Chen Zihan sat up, looked at Chen Lian and asked, what is your relationship with them? You are not with them at all. You just don't like me, right? Whatever you think, it's not a relationship anyway. I won't fall in love or get married. As for whether I like Chen Zihan or not answering is the best answer. Some words can hurt the feelings of classmates. After hearing Chen Lian's words, Chen Zihan was stunned for a long time, and after a while he said with some disappointment, then it's all related. No wonder you don't want to fall in love. Maybe he wouldn't want to, but Chen Zihan suddenly seemed to understand Chen Lian's thoughts. You can only fall in love with one person, but if you don't talk, you don't have to be bound. But what are they planning? Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian's handsome face and the halo around him, and he probably understood what those women were thinking. It was hard to say who would suffer. A bunch of greedy old women. What a beautiful thought. But I'm still a big girl, so I can't be like them. I'll be at a disadvantage if I don't know. Chen Lian's words tonight completely shattered Chen Zihan's plan. He originally thought that he could successfully capture Chen Lian, but in the end it became impossible to deliver food. Chen Lian found his phone and checked the time. He looked at Chen Zihan, who was still in a daze, and said, it's past 8 o'clock now. It's not too late to go back to school. Chen Zihan looked at Chen Lian, who had no expression at all. He was silent for a while before he smiled, tilted his head and looked at Chen Lian and said, I don't mind. What? Chen Lian was stunned for a moment and looked at Chen Zihan with a smile on his face in confusion. Chen Zihan immediately sat up from the bed, looked at Chen Lian and said seriously, I said, I don't mind, just be good friends. Can anyone be a good friend? Chen Lian really wanted to touch Chen Zihan's forehead to see if she had a fever, but she started talking nonsense anyway. I won't leave anyway. Why can they do it but I can't? Chen Zihan said the strongest statement in the cutest tone. A weird thought even appeared in my mind. If I became a good friend like Gong Li and Chen Myron, wouldn't I also be a first-line female star? This is not much more powerful than Zhang Qingqing. The class beauty is amazing. I am tied with Gong Li. Overtake directly on the curve. Listening to Chen Zihan's words, Chen Lian couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. What did he take himself for? If he hadn't quit smoking, Chen Lian would have really wanted to light a cigarette to calm down, fearing that he would not be able to control his violent temper. Chen Lian rubbed his fingers, looked at Chen Zihan and said, leave quickly before I get angry. The atmosphere in the room instantly dropped to freezing point. Chen Zihan was also shocked to realize that he had said the wrong thing. He looked at Chen Lian with a sullen face and held his hand and said, I didn't mean that. Chen Lian broke away his hand, looked at Chen Zihan calmly and said, "No matter what you mean, I'm not in the mood to play such a boring game with you right now, so, Chen Zihan didn't let Chen Lian say anything to let him go, but directly hugged Chen Lian's neck and blocked his mouth. Chen Lian, who was gagged, didn't expect that he would be attacked again without paying attention. Chen Zihan didn't give him another chance to say a word. He was a duplicitous man, so just take action. Many thoughts flashed through Chen Zihan's mind. It wasn't until Chen Lian resisted angrily that she put aside all her thoughts and could only beg for mercy and admit her mistake. Call. Chen Lian breathed a long sigh of relief, feeling that he finally let out a bad breath. She actually dared to attack her secretly. How could she let her go if she didn't vent her anger? Chen Zihan lay on the bed with eyes blank, raised his white and slender little hands, grabbed Chen Lian's hand and said in a hoarse voice, "I want to drink water. I'm so tired that I don't want to move." Chen Lian. I still summoned him, forget it, just this time. The next morning, Chen Zihan was woken up by Chen Lian to go to class early in the morning, and she was warned not to come to her again in the next 2 days, and that she should concentrate on her creation in seclusion. Chen Zihan's little head was nodding like a rattle, and he immediately agreed. It's still awkward to walk, but he has to go back to school and have a good rest for 2 days. After Chen Zihan left, Chen Lian called Chen Myron and said that he had to create for the past 2 days and had no time, and then he continued to think about his design. The design draft was basically finalized, but Chen Lian always felt that something was missing. He frowned at the design draft and thought about it for a long time without any inspiration. After sitting in the study room all morning, Chen Lian put down his pen helplessly. He lacked a little inspiration now, and his thoughts were too complicated, making it difficult to calm down and create. This period of time passed in a fog, and I didn't know what I was busy with all day long. It seemed that since I came back from Suzhou, my mind has become tacky little by little. Chen Lian, who had been sitting all morning, sighed. Sitting at home would not be of any help. Artists also need to collect styles. On the streets in early winter, pedestrians had already put on winter clothes. Without the bright summer scenery, Chen Lian was walking on the street looking at the pedestrians coming and going, and suddenly stopped. There are obvious differences in the clothing of pedestrians on the street. The mixture of pedestrians wearing old winter clothes with black as the main color and the pedestrians wearing brightly colored and trendy clothes creates a strong sense of conflict and contradiction. It is like the collision and transition between two eras. Standing on the street, Chen Lian looked at the tall buildings rising in the distance and the low old houses in front of him, as if he felt the pulse of the tide of the times. Chen Lian stood there and watched the scene in front of him. The shock in his heart became more and more intense. The light that had been missing in his mind suddenly exploded, making him want to understand what was missing in his design. Color. Every era has its own colors. In the wave of change, more and more bright colors continue to impact everything in the past, dotting the originally black and white world with brightly colored flowers. The house is no longer just gray and white, and the clothes are no longer just black, gray and blue. Everything is changing drastically under the tide of the times. The old era represented by traditional buildings and the new era bounded by steel and concrete must be distinguished with the hottest and strongest colors. After grabbing this bit of inspiration, Chen Lian nodded excitedly and ran back. He wanted to quickly turn these ideas into reality and make the ideas in his mind manifest. When Chen Lian ran home, he forgot to change his shoes and forget to close the door. He rushed back to the study room, picked up a pen and started to draw their colors on the design draft. The sky outside is gradually getting dark, and the temperature in the study is gradually dropping. The heating in the capital has not been turned on yet, and Chen Lian forgot to turn on the air conditioner. As night falls, the temperature is already very low. Chen Lian's hand holding the paintbrush turned a little blue due to the reaction, but the light in his eyes was very hot, as if a ball of fire was burning. At the door of the study, Bai Qing, who came over at some point, leaned against the door and looked at Chen Lian quietly without making a sound. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Chen Lian excitedly put down the pen in his hand, raised his head and saw Bai Qing standing at the door. He was stunned for a moment, and then said excitedly, "Come and see my design." Bai Qing looked at Chen Lian with burning eyes and felt that this was the Chen Lian he knew. The Chen Lian who only wandered around art forums and among women some time ago was too strange to her. Bai Qing walked up to Chen Lian and looked at the design draft on the drawing paper. After looking at it carefully for a while, he raised his head and looked at Chen Lian and said, "I'm looking forward to how it will look when you finish it." In Bai Qing's view, installation art is like a heresy, and painting should be the most orthodox art creation. Chen Lian has always said that he wants to play sculpture and installation art. Although she supports it, she is a little disdainful in her heart. But now looking at Chen Lian's design draft, she realized that the installation art might be different from her imagination, or that the works created by Chen Lian would always have different characteristics. Chen Lian rubbed his hands excitedly and said, "I want to make it quickly now." Seeing Chen Lian's excitement, Bai Qing went outside to pour him a glass of water and said, "Drink some water to calm down." After taking a sip of water, Chen Lian was still a little excited. Bai Qing looked at him and couldn't help but said, "You haven't been doing sculptures these days. Have you been doing this?" Yes, Chen Lian nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. The light in the study room was very bright. The light on Bai Qing's face, who was standing in the corner and leaning against the bookshelf, was blocked. He couldn't see the specific emotions in her eyes clearly. He just listened to her saying in a teasing tone, "I thought you got it after winning the Golden Lion, I lost the motivation to create and just wallowed in mundane things." Chen Lian suddenly turned his head to look at Bai Qing, the emotions in his eyes changed several times, and finally he leaned back on the chair as if he had lost his strength, and the excitement in his heart dissipated instantly. During this period of time, he gained too much fame and money, and he was emotionally at ease. Chen Lian asked himself that he was indeed fascinated by the world of flowers during this period. Maybe I had noticed it in the past 2 days, so I rejected Su Jinglei and Chen Zihan several times, but in the end I still couldn't resist Chen Zihan's Lottie offensive. During this period, he was really slack and complacent, and he was gradually losing himself. Chen Lian sat in the chair and was silent for a long time. He turned to look at Bai Qing and said, "Do you have any cigarettes on you? Give me one." Bai Qing took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit one for himself, then threw it to Chen Lian and asked, "Don't you want to quit smoking?" Chen Lian took the cigarette, took one out and held it in his mouth. He shook his head and said, "It's not that I want to quit. It's some messy things that are forcing me to quit smoking." Bai Qing took a puff of his cigarette and said, "This is really not like you. You have indeed changed a lot during this period. You are not free and easy at all. You are just like the mediocre person in the story who has exhausted all his talents. After all the money is gone, it comes back again." Bai Qing muttered something softly, then smiled and looked at Chen Lian and said, "Do you know? When I saw you before, you had the kind of unrestrained romanticism that Li Bai had." Chen Ziyan laughed at himself, looked at the burning cigarette in his hand and said, "I can't compare. The gap between him and me is probably as big as a Milky Way." Bai Qing couldn't help but rolled his eyes, flicked the cigarette in his hand and said, "I just said you look a bit like it, you are really out of breath." Chen Lian, I only have Li Bai's Lang. Without him, I would have talent, right? Well, that's the truth. What's even more cruel is that even the waves can't reach Li Bai. After Bai Qing finished smoking the cigarette in his hand, he said, "Just find yourself again. Come to the studio tomorrow and start working." Chen Lian nodded and pressed the half-smoked cigarette on the head of Simba, who was still unformed on the table. His first sculpture was destroyed like this, but Chen Lian didn't feel any pity at all. It was just a soulless work of practice, and it was not a pity to destroy it. As long as you are still alive, what can't you lose, and what things are worth looking forward to and looking forward to? Thousands of gold is gone and it comes back again. My gums were inflamed today. I broke my computer in the afternoon and then repaired it. The condition is not very good. There will be another chapter later. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 185. Chapter 181-179. Chen Lian's first premiere. In the quiet courtyard, a few pigeons were standing on the bare branches with their wings fluttering, and the sound of a few pigeon whistles could be heard in the distance. The pigeon squatting on the branch suddenly flapped its wings and flew away. Chen Lian turned his gaze back and looked at the tree in the yard, wondering whether to cut it down or move it away. This tree looks old. It would be a pity to cut it down. Chen Lian turned his head and looked at Bai Qing and said. Bai Qing pointed to a broken branch and said, "This tree is dead. Let's cut it down. It can't be saved by transplanting it." On the straight trunk of the ginkgo tree, a broken branch was already extremely dry. Chen Lian took a closer look to confirm that the tree was really dead. But looking at this dead tree, Chen Lian suddenly had new inspiration. The dead tree and the old courtyard seemed inexplicably consistent with his theme. At first, I thought the tree was alive, so I considered cutting it down or transplanting it. But now I find the tree is dead, so I don't need to move it. After Chen Lian circled the tree twice, he sat on the stone table in the yard and took out his design draft from his bag while basking in the sun. "Do you want to change it again?" Bo Qing came over and asked. Chen Lian sharpened his pencil and sighed, looked up at the tall ginkgo tree and said, "But the branches need to be trimmed, and this tree can be used as the center and support of the entire work, so there is no need to worry about load-bearing and structural issues." The design draft placed on the bluestone table depicts a complex criss-crossing steel structure. Without good support points, load-bearing is indeed a problem. Bai Qing thought for a moment and said, "This is a good idea." Chen Lian put down the utility knife in his hand. He gently blew off the pencil dust on the edge of the table, raised his head and looked at Bo Qing and said, "I will redraw the drawings. There are not many changes. You are responsible for changing the color of this yard." "Well, but are you sure you want to change the color of everything?" Bai Qing asked, looking at Chen Lian's drawings. "This unrenovated courtyard house is all covered with blue-gray bricks and walls, and the wooden doors and windows that have peeled off the paint don't look strong either. It's a bit too desolate and dilapidated." This was not what Chen Lian wanted to feel, so he nodded and said, "Reform it all, recolor it all. But this project is not small, so you can just adjust the color and find workers to do it." Bai Qing nodded lightly, took his bag and went out to find some workers squatting on the street looking for work. Today's small workers are all versatile. Carpenters, bricklayers, and painters often have 2 or 3 skills at their disposal, and the wages are not much. In less than an hour, Bai Qing came back with 2 workers on a tricycle. There were more than 20 small buckets of paint in the compartment of the tricycle. Chen Lian had almost finished revising the drawings. Looking at the workers moving paint into the yard, Chen Lian put down his pen, walked up to Bai Qing and said, "You stay busy here, I'll go to the building materials market to order materials." Bai Qing was counting the paints. After hearing this, he waved his hand to Chen Lian and told him to go about his business. Chen Lian's installation art requires a large amount of steel and cement, and also requires oversized tinted glass to combine, turning the light source of the entire space into the color he wants. There were a lot of things that needed to be purchased. After wandering around the building materials market for a whole day, Chen Lian ordered all the materials he needed. However, all these materials would not be delivered until the day after tomorrow at the earliest. Chen Lian was not idle for the second time. He and Bai Qing helped mix colors in the courtyard. 2 master painters were painting according to the drawings. The pungent smell of paint was very strong. Chen Lian and Bai Qing wore masks and added various colors into a large bucket, then kept stirring to mix. Chen Lian picked up a bit of paint with a brush and took a look in the sun. After confirming that it was exactly the same color as Bai Qing's yesterday, he rolled up his sleeves and carried the paint to join in the work of painting the wall. After a whole day of painting, the color of the entire courtyard has been completely changed. The entire courtyard has been decorated with contemporary blue, gray and black colors, diluting the original characteristics of the courtyard and no longer giving people a strong first impression. The repainted courtyard will also prevent people who see the work from automatically inserting their perspective into the fixed impression of a courtyard, and the title and width of the work will also be enlarged. Looking at the results of a whole day's work, Chen Lian couldn't help but nodded, looked at Bai Qing who was rubbing his temples next to him, and shouted with a smile, "We're done today." The yard was filled with a pungent smell, which would make you dizzy if you smell it for a long time. Not to mention that Bai Qing felt a little uncomfortable, and Chen Lian also felt a little headache. After returning home in the evening, Chen Lian washed 2 cabbages, held one in his arms and handed the other to Bai Qing and said, "Eat it raw. It can detoxify." Bai Qing looked at the huge cabbage in front of him and said angrily, "I'm not a rabbit, so I won't eat it." "Take a few bites, it can really detoxify." Chen Lian couldn't help but stuff the cabbage into Bai Qing's arms and said, "Don't go tomorrow, you won't be able to help with the subsequent work. Come back when you need to color it in the end." Bai Qing hugged the cabbage and hummed. Seeing Chen Lian chewing it vigorously, he couldn't help but take a bite. It was sweet and delicious. In the next few days, Chen Lian spent every day in the courtyard directing workers to place steel pipes of different lengths and thicknesses in the courtyard according to his own requirements. As time goes by, there are more and more steel pipes in the yard, and the originally empty yard slowly becomes crowded. Countless steel pipes are crisscrossing like bamboo shoots growing out of the ground, and there are pores in inconspicuous corners. Cement pillars of different shapes appeared. The steel pipes are like branches, and the cement and stone pillars are like the trunks, but they still lack green leaves and flowers. Chen Lian looked at the customized colored glass and began to place colored glass of different sizes and colors between these steel pipes and cement columns. Under the refraction of the sun, the entire courtyard became psychedelic. All the light seemed to be painted, hitting the blue-gray walls, forming beautiful light spots. Chen Lian held a long piece of glass in his hand and constantly adjusted the angle, striving to adjust the perfect light spot. It took Chen Lian a full week to install the colored glass, and the entire work was half completed at this time. Chen Lian is still waiting for the materials to be delivered before he can start making the remaining half. However, it happened that Chen Lian could take advantage of this gap to attend the premiere of The Winner. In 1995, when there was no concept of Lunar New Year movie, it was not a good time for the movie to be released at this time. However, the entire schedule can also cover the New Year's Day holiday, which will be somewhat helpful to the box office. In the Victory Cinema, it was a very simple and crude premiere, but many people came, including more than a dozen reporters, people from the Disabled Persons Federation and Han Shanping from Beijing Film Studio. However, Chen Lian was not very interested in these people because he also saw a wonderful person. Chen Lian coughed lightly touched Ning Jing with his shoulder and asked, "Did you call Zhang Wen over?" Ning Jing snorted coldly and said in an unhappy tone, "I won't do that kind of thing. It's not like there are no men in this world." Chen Lian curled his lips and then asked about the Red River Valley. "I don't believe it. I have already told the factory, but it will take some time to know whether it is possible," Jing Jing explained, and then asked curiously, "Have you done any painting recently? Can you show me?" "Are you interested?" Chen Lian asked curiously. Jing Jing raised his eyebrows and said proudly, "I have been learning to paint since I was a child. If I hadn't been deceived at that time, I would not have become an actor. I really didn't realize it." It's rare for you to be so tempered, Chen Lian replied with a smile. After noticing Jiang Wen and Huo Jiankai coming together, he immediately whispered to Ning Jing, Jiang Wen, come here. Okay, don't get angry later, there are many reporters here. Ning Jing turned her head and glanced at Jiang Wen, who was smiling cheerfully, and turned her back with a snort. Chen Lian was worried that Ning Jing couldn't help but quarrel with Jiang Wen later, so he took a step forward to greet him and said, long time no see. You didn't go to Venice last time. I'm still a little regretful that I couldn't drink with you. Jiang Wen's eyes lingered on Ning Jing for a moment, then he looked at Chen Lian and said, the wine in Venice is not as good as our Urquhart. Let's have a drink together after watching the movie tonight. That's good. Now that the movie is released, I'm finally relieved, Huo Jiankai said with a smile. Chen Lian smiled and looked at Huo Jiankai and said, aren't you afraid that your wife will make you kneel on the washboard when she comes home? Huo Jiankai blushed, glanced at Su Xiao Yi who was chatting with others in the distance, and then said harshly, she has no control over the men's drinking. Looking at Huo Jiankai, who was desperate for face, Chen Lian and Jiang Wen looked at each other, and then burst out laughing at the same time. Huo Jiankai's face turned red as he laughed, and in the end he couldn't help laughing too. He was afraid that his wife would be embarrassed and he expected her to write a script for him. Huo Jiankai comforted himself in his heart. The few of them chatted for a while and soon entered the theater together. The auditorium of Victory Cinema was quite large, and the premiere was also full of spectators, most of whom came for Ning Jing. Although the male lead is famous, he is only famous in the literary and art circles, and the audience does not know much about it. Although the director has been in this industry for several years, he is just a new director, and no audience cares. Only Ning Jing, the heroine, became completely popular across the country with her role as Milan in the Sunny Days, which was released in September. For a while, many half-year-old boys would dream of Ning Jing in a swimsuit when they go to bed at night. Ning Jing was also famous before, but it was the movie Sunny Days that really made her famous. I can only say that Jiang Wen is really good at taking pictures of women and butts. The premiere was a bit boring for Chen Lian. He had seen all the movies before, and he acted with no enthusiasm at all. Although it was his first theater movie, Chen Lian still couldn't get up and sat with Jiang Wen for a while. Chatting without a ride. Why did you remember to come here? Chen Lian asked curiously. Director Huo happened to be promoting the Chinese opera that day, so I just watched the first half. I left the rest beforehand, so I came over today to make up for it, Jiang Wen replied in a low voice. He had watched the previous part, but it wasn't that big. Serious? Chen Lian didn't know whether what Jiang Wen said was true or false, but being able to participate would bring a lot of popularity to the movie winner. You must know that Jiang Wen is now a popular director in China, and it is quite a topic. Then take a good look at it. I'll squint for a while and call me when you're done. Chen Lian couldn't help but yawned and said, then he leaned back on the chair and closed his eyes. During this period of time, I was busy working on creations in the courtyard without much rest. Chen Lian was very sleepy now. Jiang Wen glanced at Chen Lian, who was about to sleep with his eyes closed, and he actually admired his attitude. Normal people would start to worry about whether their performance would be recognized by the audience, but he just fell asleep. However, Jiang Wen admires this kind of character. Artists are always a bit unique. When Chen Lian woke up in a daze, the movie was almost over. He turned to look at Jiang Wen, who was attentive next to him. Chen Lian yawned silently, rubbed his eyes and looked around the dark theater. And found that everyone was watching the movie intently. The last section of the movie is indeed very exciting and attractive. Chen Lian can see the excitement and anticipation in the audience's eyes. Both protagonists are running towards their own future, which is very inspiring. Soon the movie was over. As soon as Chen Lian sat up, violent applause broke out in the theater. Jiang Wen, who was sitting next to him, couldn't help but applaud. He looked at Chen Lian and said, "You did a great job, Director Huo. One section was handled well. You should tell Director Huo that I won't say thank you to you. He will definitely hold your hand and thank you," Chen Lian said with a smile. The lights in the theater also turned on at this time. Huo Jiankai stood up with a smile on his face, motioned to Chen Lian and the others to stand up together, and then bowed to express his gratitude to all the audience. After the audience had all left, Chen Lian looked at Huo Jiankai and said, "Director Huo, the premiere was a success. You can treat me to dinner tonight." Huo Jiankai smiled, and then glanced at Su Xiaoyi subconsciously. Seeing that she had no reaction, he smiled and said, "No problem, everyone will go today and have a drink together to celebrate. There are quite a few people here." "Lao Huo, you are going to bleed heavily tonight," Han Shanping said with a smile beside him, and then said with some pity, "It would be great if it can be released again next year. Next year's games for the disabled will definitely bring a lot of benefits to the movie, a lot of box office." Chen Lian raised his eyebrows. He really didn't expect that releasing it during the Paralympic Games would indeed bring in a lot of box office and make more people pay attention to the Paralympic Games. It was indeed a pity. Chen Lian glanced at Huo Jiankai, who was very proud and shook his head slightly. There was nothing wrong with releasing the film in advance. Why couldn't Huo Jiankai wait any longer? When a group of people were about to leave the cinema, a reporter from Popular Film magazine suddenly came over, went directly to Chen Lian and said, "Hello, I am a reporter from Popular Film. I wonder if it would be convenient for me to interview you." Chen Lian was interviewed by Popular Photography. This was his first time for a Popular Film. He pointed at the people around him curiously and asked, "There are actors and directors who are more famous than me here. Why are you interviewing me? Can I interview you?" "Reverse interview?" The reporter was stunned for a moment, and then said with a smile, "I have interviewed them all, so I want to interview you." Several people around him laughed. Zhang Wen patted Chen Lian on the shoulder and said, "Popular movies sell well. Interviewing you can help you increase your reputation a lot." Reputation? Chen Lian really doesn't care about this thing. He is quite famous now. Who in the art circle doesn't know Chen Lian? It doesn't matter whether he is well known in the entertainment industry or not. Being famous is really not a good thing for Chen Lian. He doesn't like the life of being picked on wherever he goes. "Sorry, I don't have time now. We have to celebrate. I will accept your interview next time I have the opportunity." Chen Lian refused with a smile, and just as he was about to leave, Huo Jiankai next to him said immediately, "We can wait for you, the interview will be quick." Seeing Huo Jiankai winking at him, Chen Lian twitched the corner of his mouth and had no choice but to look at the reporter helplessly and said, "Is 10 minutes enough? If not, let's do it next time." "That's enough," the reporter immediately responded with a smile, then looked towards the quieter corner of the theater and said to Chen Lian, "Let's go over there and it will be over soon." Chen Lian nodded and followed. As soon as he sat down, he heard the reporter ask directly, "Can you tell me why you chose acting? As far as I know, you are a very successful artist. You prefer the two identities of actor and artist. Which one?" Chen Lian pondered for a moment and said, "I like them all, but I prefer artistic creation. The space for actors to perform is too small. Can we talk about your relationship status? What is your relationship with Chen Miran and Gong Li?" The reporter asked the question he was most concerned about. "One is the popular heroine of Qianyao drama, the most beautiful Diao Chan, the other is an international movie queen, the best actress. These two people have an inexplicable relationship with Chen Lian. Who can not be curious? Moreover, Chen Lian is also a great artist, and stories about talented men and beautiful women are popular in all eras." Seeing the reporter's serious face but hidden gossip in his eyes, Chen Lian frowned and said directly, "Shouldn't I ask about something related to the movie?" That's it for this interview. I don't like sharing my life with others. After saying that, Chen Lian turned around and left, leaving the reporter sitting there blankly. It's so disrespectful. When you get back, write a manuscript to scold him. The reporter snorted, put away his notebook and left. You are so disrespectful. Aren't you afraid that he will deliberately discredit the movie? Zhang Wen and Chen Lian asked curiously. Chen Lian smiled and pointed at Han Shanping and the leaders of the Disabled Persons Federation in front and said, do you think he has a chance? You can use your strength to fight. Zhang Wen looked at Chen Lian's confident look, pointed at Huo Jiankai on the other side who looked like he wanted to hit someone, and said, Director Huo also plans to use your interview to promote it. Woolen cloth. Chen Lian, I'm so sloppy, I'm sorry Huo Jiankai. It's done, I'm so sleepy, I'm going to bed, I'll update it early on weekends, I'll code when I get up tomorrow.